Hello everyone, Xeno What If here. Bring in Season 2 Part 18 of What If the Transformers Were in My Hero Academia. Link in the description of the fanfiction of this What If. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. Chapter 35, Bittersweet Celebrations. You guys are absolutley sure you want to do this, right? Izuku asked as he led his friends up the stairs leading to his apartment. It's not too late to back out, you know, he added nervously. Kyoka raised a questioning brow. Izuku, why are you so apprehensive about this? You're acting like us meeting your mom is the biggest deal in the world. Yeah, and you just literally went through the whole sports festival and won the damn thing. Eijiro reminded. How's introducing us to your mom any harder than that? Izuku bit his lower lip. If you knew my mom, you'd probably understand. With a heavy sigh, the greenette approached his door, setting a hand on the knob. Alright, well, here we are. He raised his casted-up arm toward his friends, stopping them from coming any closer. But just, stay there for a second, please. There's no telling what could happen when I open this door. Mina rolled her eyes and, despite the warning, she approached the door herself. Oh, come on, Midori, you're making way too big a deal out of this. She set her hand over his, knowing that'd make him jolt away as she snickered at his expense. Hee, gotcha. Relax, I've met tons of my friends' parents before, I'm sure this'll be no different. Ishido, wait, don't just, click, oh no. But it was too late. The moment Mina pulled the door open, they were met with what had to be a wall of water that came bursting out from the apartment, making both of the frizzy-haired teens cry out in shock. They barely managed to sidestep the flood as he came pouring through the door and out over the ledge, taking everyone else by surprise. What the heck was that? Denki exclaimed. Izuku pursed his lips. Those were my mom's tears. Immediately, everyone's jaws dropped. Yeah, that is why I didn't want any of you so close to the door. Momo processed this information before asking, does she have a quirk that makes her overproduce water in her body? No, her quirk is levitation. She can push and pull small objects. Then why? Listen, crying a lot is a hereditary thing on my mom's side of the family. Izuku explained. So please excuse me while I go check on her. But he didn't even get a single step into the door before he suddenly felt something come charging into him, a pair of arms wrapping around his still very hurt body and squeezing him in a tight embrace despite that. My baby Izuku. Crap. With his face beginning to turn blue, Izuku glanced down to see his mother, Inko, still crying her eyes out as she squeezed him real tight. Hi mom, he choked out. I'm home. Oh, yes you are. Despite her crying, though, Inko had a smile upon her lips, no doubt ecstatic to see her son. Her focus shifted between him and the gold medal hanging around his neck, almost as if she was still processing the events from earlier. It was only then that she regained some sense of composure and let her son breath, wiping the tears from her cheeks. Oh, Izuku, my baby, I still can't believe that this is really happening. You won. You actually won the sports festival. She sniffled a little before putting on a proud smile. And in quite the dominant fashion, if I do say so. But oh god, you scared me so many times while doing it. I thought I was going to collapse from dehydration a few times. I can see that. Izuku clutched his chest as he reached for his medal, pulling it off so she could get a better look at it. But yeah, I was honestly a little surprised myself. But I did it. Her eyes shining with pride, Inko placed a hand over her chest, trying to quell her emotions. Oh, Izuku, I can't begin to express how this makes me feel. She pulled her son in for another, much more gentle hug. To think, not too long ago, you found out that you had a quirk all along, and now you're doing such amazing things with it. I'm so proud of you, sweetie. Izuku cleared his throat, nudging his head off toward the side. Thanks mom, but we have guests, if you hadn't noticed. Inko let go of her boy and peered past his shoulder, seeing Kyoka, Ochako, Momo, Mina, Eijiro, Denki and Mei all standing behind him, smiling and waving at her happily. Hi. Kyoka greeted first. Mei gave a salute. Salutations. Inko blinked to make sure she wasn't seeing things, but of course, she wasn't, and it was then that she let out another excited scream. Ah, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Without wasting a second, she rushed past her son and went straight to his friends, even taking Izuku aback with how speedy she was. Are you all Izuku's friends? Ochako gave her a polite bow. Yes, ma'am, we are. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. We've known your boy over there for a couple months now. Denki said with a cheeky grin, placing his hands on his hips. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that we were a pretty big help in his tribe, Ning. With an irritated sneer, Kyoka pulled back her jack before grinning to Inko again. What Kaminari means is, we've all been training together for the sports festival, so we've all gotten to be pretty good friends with each other in such a short period of time. Inko's eyes began to glisten after hearing that, her hands lacing together in joy. Oh, dear, please don't make me cry again, I can't afford to pass out an 8th time. That nearly made everyone's eyes bug out of their heads. What? Mom, Izuku shouted in concern. Oh, relax, honey. The mother said with a sheepish grin, waving her hand at him. It's not like this hasn't happened before. Her attention went back toward the group in front of her with excitement, all while her son slumped over. Ahem, so, my name is Inko Midoriya. Please, if you would, tell me all of your names. I want to get to know all of my Izuku's friends as much as possible. But then, as she scanned her eyes across the group, something clicked in her head. Though now that I think about it, I think I might know some of your names already. You all made it to the finals, in the festival, if I'm not mistaken. Momo lowered her head, placing a hand over her chest. That's correct, Mrs. Midoriya. My name is Momo Yaoyorozu. It's truly a pleasure. Ochako's cheeks flushed a bit as she scratched the back of her head. I'm Ochako Uraraka. So nice to finally meet you, Mrs. Midoriya. Eijiro Kirishima. The spiky redhead placed a fist over his chest. Her son really proved his manliness out there at the festival, let me tell ya. Hiya, name's Denki Kaminari. The electric blonde said with a wink and a pointed finger. I'm the coolest member of the group. Ah. Mina pushed him out of the way to get her introduction in. Ha, he wishes. I'm Mina Ishido, and don't worry, we've been taking good care of Midori at school. Izuku peered over his mother's shoulder with a deadpan stare in Mina's direction. Ahem, Ishido's exaggerating a bit on that one. I can take good care of myself, thanks. That earned him a stuck-out tongue from the horned, pink-skinned girl. Ha ha. Oh, this is so exciting. Inko clapped her hands with glee. Seeing my Izuku have a rapport like that with anyone makes me so happy. Never did I think he'd come out of his shell like this, but I've never been more glad to have been proven wrong. It was then that she saw a certain Perplet was keeping mostly to herself, her expression clearly anxious. And what about you, dear? What's your name? Kyoka blushed at being called out, but went to introduce herself nonetheless. Oh, my name's Kyoka Jiro, Mrs. Midoriya. She bowed to her politely. I actually met your son a few months back during the entrance exams. It's nice to finally meet you. Inko couldn't help but blink in surprise, taking note of how police the young lady in front of her was being. Especially since it didn't seem to suit her style given the rather punk rocker style she was going for with her clothing. She was confused about her blush as well, until she noticed that Izuku was also somewhat red in the face out the corner of her eye. It didn't take long for her to connect the dots. With a knowing smile, she leaned over to return the bow. Kyoka, what a pretty name. Thank you. Please, dear, you don't need to be so formal around me. Inko smiled kindly, meeting the earphone jack user's eyes. I can tell that it isn't your style. Oh, sorry. Kyoka tapped her jacks together. It's just, after knowing Izuku for months it's a bit weird too, are you okay? The green-haired woman was trembling after hearing that. First name basis, first name basis, first name basis. She had to promise herself that she'd talk to Izuku about it later, but for now, she would rein herself in. Oh, never better, honey. But please, don't feel so nervous around me. Any friend of Izuku's is welcome in my home. Speaking of, she raised her head up to the young woman with the pink dreads toward the back. I believe there's one more person all the way back there. In an instant, Mei went up front and center, getting up in Inko's face and making her jump slightly. Hey there. My name's Mei Hatsume, ma'am. And, not to brag or anything, but I was kinda the first out of this whole group to meet your son. Nice to meet ya. After collecting herself, Inko snapped her fingers in realization. Ah, yes, that's right. You were the girl with all the inventions who made your match into a commercial, right? She brought her hand up to her cheek, giving a short chuckle. I have to say, I was both very impressed and amused by that. Internally, Mei was a bit conflicted in hearing that. While she was glad to have made an impression on Inko before meeting her, it also served as a reminder for what she did to Iida. Yeah, that's right. She rubbed her neck in guilt. Though in retrospect, it wasn't the nicest thing to do to my opponent. Oh well, yes, I suppose that's true, but you did let him advance, so I'm sure that made up for it. Inko reassured, which only made everyone else wince. By the way, I believe I saw that exact same blue-haired boy come here this morning to pick you up, Izuku. Is he one of your friends as well? The moment she turned to her son, however, she noticed his own awkward expression, along with a sadness behind his eyes. Izuku, what's wrong? Iida couldn't make it here, Mom. Izuku explained, his concern noticeable in his voice. He received a call notifying him of a family emergency, so he had to leave the festival early. Inko gasped upon hearing that. Oh my goodness, is everything okay with him? We aren't sure at the moment. Momo shook her head. His brother, a pro-hero, was attacked by a villain. We've been told that his injuries are severe, but he'll live, though we haven't heard about how Iida's handling all of this. Iida, Inko muttered to herself before gasping again. Wait, as in Tensei Iida. The hero in Genium who was. Yes. Izuku nodded. Tenya, our friend, is his brother. Inko's hand covered her mouth in shock. Oh my gosh, I just saw a news report on that not too long ago. She brought a hand to her chest as she looked to the group of teens with utmost sympathy. Oh, the poor dear, I can only imagine what he must be going through right now. Inko took in a deep breath as she ushered the kids to follow her inside. Well, no use just standing out here. Everyone, please come in. Oh, and feel free to help yourself to some katsudon. I made a lot to celebrate Izuku's victory, so there's plenty for everyone. That managed to bring everyone's moods up a little bit. Thank you, Mrs. Midoriya. Momo bowed in gratitude once again. We would be honored. But on the topic of celebrations, she went up and gently nudged Izuku in the side, prompting him to continue on. Oh, right. Izuku said as everyone took off their shoes to go in. Mom, Yaoyorozu's parents are actually holding a special party later this evening, and I was wondering if I could go with the others. Why of course, honey. Inko obliged, finding no issue with the arrangement. After all, this is a big day, and I'm sure everyone will want to be celebrating in their own way. Just so long as it's not after, I'm going to be generous and say 11 tonight, but only because you're the guest of honor. That got Izuku and the others beaming in excitement. Wow. Okay. Thank you so much, Mom. I promise I'll be home on time. Meanwhile, he was thinking to himself, thank you, Ground Bridge, but then, Izuku also caught whiff of a certain familiar smell. And hello Mom's katsudon. About an hour later, around 6:30 or so, the teens all began setting out again, giving Inko one last farewell before heading to ground level. Gotta say, Midori, I've got no idea what you were so nervous about. Mina said as she brought her hands behind her head, wearing a proud smile. I'd say we all left quite the positive impression on your mom back there. Yeah, I mean, sure, she's pretty emotional, but what parent isn't, right? Denki added. The brunette sighed as he led the way down the steps. Yeah, I guess you guys make a good point. He glanced over, seeing Kyoka eye him knowingly. Yes. Oh, nothing. Kyoka winked. It's just that you totally freaked out over nothing. It's kind of funny considering your confidence should be soaring after dominating the sports festival. It's honestly not that easy, I assure you. Izuku asserted, his mind going back to all of the drama that happened that day, though he pulled up the medal around his neck so he could stare at that as well. Believe me, I'm excited beyond belief that I won, but, between Iida and Bakugo's situations, I've had a lot of other stuff on my mind. I can relate, muscles. Mei affirmed, only to give him a hearty smack across the back. But come on, we can't just sulk forever. Once we get to the base, I'm sure it'll be smooth sailing from. Oh, the inventor trailed off the second her eyes found someone standing at the curb near the apartment building, accompanied by a familiar police jeep truck. Strongarm. The holoform policewoman brought her sights up to the group, wearing a sad smile as they approached. Hey there, guys. It's good to see you. She directed her attention down to Izuku in particular. Izuku, congratulations on winning the sports festival. Tenya wanted me to make sure I gave you his well regards, too. Thank you. Izuku nodded before staring seriously into Strongarm's eyes. But Iida, how is he? And how is his brother? Strongarm pursed her lips, taking in a deep intake. Well, both of them are doing well, thankfully. The woman under the alias, Stella, clenched her fist. But whoever did this to Tenya's brother, I could tell by the placement of the wounds that they intended on keeping him just barely alive. If the surgery had happened any later, Gra. She punched the nearest stop sign, which was severely dented as a result. Frag it all. I wish I could do more for them. Ochako immediately rushed up, taking a hold of Strongarm's hand. Whoa, cool your servos, Strongarm. Please, remain calm and tell us how it went down. As her engine revved in frustration, Strongarm slowly began to collect herself, opening her hand to take hold of Ochako's. Thank you, Ochako. This was hard. Let me start at the beginning. Hosu General Hospital, 2 hours ago. We're here. Strongarm said as she pulled up to the curb, her gaze going up to the sign in front of the hospital. She had emerged from the ground bridge just a few miles outside the city, and from there, it was just a simple matter of putting on her sirens to make sure she had a clear shot to the hospital. Now all that was left was to go inside. She rolled toward the parking lot, and the moment she came to a halt, Tenya reached for her door handles, only to find that they were locked. Hey, don't rush. Remember, this is a hospital. Strongarm reached over, taking Tenya by the shoulder. I know this is a tense situation, but we must continue to follow the decorum that a hospital asks for. Understood. I apologize, Strongarm, it's just. Strongarm nodded in understanding. Believe me, I get it. If I were in your position, I'd want to do the same. But we must also keep in mind that there are probably plenty of others in there going through a similar situation. We must be respectful. She unlocked her doors and gave his shoulder a reassuring squeeze. Now come on, let's go see your brother. With that, the two got out of her vehicle mode and went toward the front entrance, walking straight up to the receptionist desk. There, they were met with a young woman in a hospital frock, gazing up at them with a hint of worry in her eye. Hello, officer, welcome to Hosu General Hospital. How may we help you today? Yes, hello. Strongarm extended her hand toward Tenya. I'm here escorting this young man to see his brother. He was admitted recently. Tenya stepped forward and bowed his head. Please, miss, where is Tensai Iida's room? Oh, yes, of course. With a sense of urgency, the receptionist searched the room up in no time flat. Iida is in surgery room, 406, 4th floor. She pointed toward the far corner of the waiting area. The elevator's right over there, and please remember, no running in the hallways. Giving a full bow this time, Tenya showed his gratitude. Thank you very much. The duo walked up to the elevator and took it up to the 5th floor, getting off before scanning the halls for the surgery room. Thankfully, it didn't take long for them to find it, since there was a woman sitting near the door. Tenya's eyes widened and he shouted, Mom. The middle-aged woman, a brunette with short hair wearing glasses and a light blue cardigan, stood up the moment she heard her son. Oh, Tenya. Just by her broken voice alone, it was obvious to Strongarm that she had been crying, and for quite a while. As she met her son, however, Tenya's mother quickly noticed, Stella, off to the side. And, wait, who is? The Autobot cadet saluted. Officer Stella Armstrong, ma'am. I'm an acquaintance of your son's. I was stationed as security at the sports festival when he received the news, so I gave him a police escort. Oh my goodness, thank you so much. The woman gave a half-hearted smile, Strongarm noting how exhausted she seemed, though her tone was genuine. You made, surprisingly good time. I only called half an hour ago, how did you? When you've got your lights and sirens going, it makes it faster than any bullet train. I sincerely doubt that, but I won't question it. She went over, reaching out to her youngest son's hand as her eyes brimmed with tears. What truly matters is that you're here. Thank God. Attempting to remain as calm as possible was hard for Tenya. He so desperately wanted to throw open that door, but Strongarm could tell he was trying to hold himself back. Mom, how is Tensai doing? He is alive, and in stable condition. The Iida matriarch said in relief. The first surgery went well, and they expect he will only need a couple more, but Tenya, there's no guarantee that he'll ever be the same because of this. That horrified Tenya to his core. What? Please, I need to, HMPH. Without any warning, his mother produced a hospital mask from her pocket and slipped it over his face, before doing the same with hers. Before you go anywhere in that room, young man, you must wear this. No exceptions, understood? Why yes. Good, the mother took a deep breath and went for the door. Now, be prepared, Before she could reach the handle, though, Stella got to it first. Please, Mrs. Iida, allow me. She nodded to the two. Are you ready? They returned the nod and Strongarm knocked on the door. Please excuse us, we're coming in. It didn't take long for a reply. So long as everyone is masked up, you're free to do so. Strongarm took that as her cue to open the sliding door, and what she saw even left her shell-shocked. There, laid out in the bed, was Tensai. The young man was covered in wounds all over, with several IV tubes stuck into him almost on every point of his upper body. Several parts of him were also covered in gauze, particularly a large patch over his midsection as well as wrapped around his scalp. He still wore an oxygen mask, and thankfully, his breathing was steady and regular. The doctor, who stood by Tensai's bed, nodded to the family and officer. The anesthesia's worn off, but he's still in and out. He informed, seeing their absolutely stunned expressions. If the surgery had happened any later, I don't know if he would have made it. HMPH, a stir from the bed caught everybody's attention. There, they could see Tensai moving only a slight bit, his eyes cracking open. They were dark, and that left Strongarm feeling all the worse for this family's situation. She had seen faded optics like that several times. Tensai's eyes found Iida, though his vision was incredibly blurry. Little brother, is that you? By solace, Strongarm whispered before hearing Mrs. Iida suddenly break down in tears, slumping and falling against the doorframe. The cadet's eyes widened, no doubt she was overwhelmed by the sight as much as they were. Mrs. Iida. Strongarm went down, gently grasping the woman's shoulders in an attempt to console her. Tensai. Tenya, however, almost stumbled into the room as he went to his brother's side, leaning over the bed's guardrail. Why, you're going to be fine. His voice cracked. The broken ingenium was just barely able to speak in a whisper. Sorry, I'm supposed to be someone you can look up to and respect, but look at me. As Tensai spoke to him, Tenya couldn't keep it together anymore. He began trembling and whimpering as tears welled in his eyes, all while his brother began to lose consciousness again. Tenya, little brother, I'm so sorry, I failed you. Tenya watched as Ingenium's eyes closed, a new wave of anguish washing over him. His knees buckled from underneath, all while wailing in despair. Tensai, present. Strongarm hung her head after recounting everything, unable to meet the gazes of the teens in front of her. It never hit me until now, but I didn't realize just how fragile you humans can be. She placed a hand over her eyes, trying to keep herself composed. Here I thought, in a world where broken arms can be healed in a mere instant thanks to a quirk, that humans rarely if ever end up in the condition that Tenya's brother is in now. The 8 classmates in front of the cadet were all hit with a renewed sense of sadness after hearing that, with Momo giving a single nod. Yes, it's a harsh reality, but when something like that happens, healing quirks can only do so much. Yeah, Izuku raised his cast-covered arm the best he could to show it off. My last smash left me like this, after all, though I'd hardly compare what I did to myself to what Ingenium went through. I'm just glad that he lived. Eijiro commented. If he had been killed, God, I can't imagine what Iida would do. Did they say if he was going to make a full recovery? Denki asked. You said he needed more surgeries, right? Strongarm sucked in her lips, letting out a brief huff as she gestured toward her Jeep mode. Maybe it's best if we continue this discussion back at base. Everyone's already waiting there, though obviously, Tenya's decided to sit this out. Completely understandable, Kyoka said softly. He should take all the time he needs right now. With that, everyone began loading up into Strongarm, with Ochako, Izuku, Kyoka and Momo taking the main cab while Eijiro, Denki, Mina and Mei all climbed onto the tailgate. Alright, let's roll. Activating her comm, Strongarm contacted the base. Autobot HQ, this is Strongarm. I've got the kids, so bridge us there, please. Affirmative, Cadet. Red Alert answered on the other end. In no time at all, the ground bridge burst open at the end of the street in front of them, the swirling vortex's green light greeting them. Ground bridge is open. Make this quick, Strongarm, we don't need any passersby noticing. Putting herself in gear, the young bot drove through the portal immediately, leading it to close just as quickly. On the other side, the police truck drove her way into the Autobot base, where Red Alert was standing right at the console. Naturally, Mei was the first to greet him. Hiya, Red. The moment Strongarm pulled to a stop, she hopped out to meet the medic with a gleeful smile. So, did ya watch me in the festival, huh? Did ya? Red put on a small grin as he knelt down to meet her. I did. And I must say, you certainly made a show of your inventions out there. I was thoroughly impressed. Shucks. Mei waved him off. Red, it was nothing, really, though I do kinda wish I'd done some things a bit differently. Let me guess. The Autobot's tone was more somber now. It's about Tenya, correct? The single, sad nod was all he needed to confirm that. I had a feeling that was the case. Well, Mei, as someone who's seen his fair share of grievous injuries, I will say this, you shouldn't feel bad about a circumstantial happening. Using Tenya as your guinea pig wasn't intended to be mean-spirited, correct? No, it wasn't. He reached down, giving her a pat on the head. Then I'm certain that he is not upset with you about it. His brother's situation was an unfortunate accident, but you mustn't feel guilty about something that was out of your control. Mei gave a shrug at that. Yeah, I guess not. Red Alert's smile reappeared. And besides, think about all of the sponsors that saw your ideas in action. I'm certain that a support company will want to recruit you soon. You've got a point, Red. Mei's own smile returned as well, raising her fists in determination. Alright, no more moping around. I'm gonna start using these nasty feelings as motivation for me to work harder and smarter on my next baby. That's what I was hoping to hear. As everyone else disembarked from Strongarm, however, a loud squeal of delight came ringing through the whole room, making the kids jump. What was, Momo didn't have time to finish her question as a certain city speaker came rushing over and scooped her up out of nowhere, taking her by surprise with a hug. Windblade, what in the world has gotten into? Hee, I am so proud of you. Windblade laughed, bringing Momo up to her optic level. Momo, you exceeded my expectations out there throughout the whole event. I was especially blown away by your showing in the finals. Momo's cheeks flushed red at the sudden heaping of praise, her lips parting in shock. Why you were, really? Gently, Windblade brought her hand up, giving her friend a supportive pat on the back. Of course, I was. I could tell just by watching that you took our training to heart and remained focused on thinking through both your fights. Yes, you were overwhelmed in your last fight, but that is understandable when confronted with an intimidating opponent. Her smile became more determined as she balled her hand into a fist. But that's only all the more reason to keep working at it. I have no doubt in my spark that you'll be a great hero one day, for sure. Bringing her hand up to her chest, Momo felt a surge of emotion come rushing through her, the raven-haired girl beaming back to her partner before standing up and giving her a hug. Or, at least, giving Windblade's face a hug. Thank you, Windblade, so much. I don't know if I would have had the confidence to do what I did out there if it weren't for your training, really. The city speaker's smile widened as she returned the embrace to the best of her ability. You're welcome, Momo. Just remember, have faith in yourself and you can do or create anything you set your mind to. AAAWW. Mina cooed down below, her hands clasped together joyfully. That's so cute. Now I've gotta find Bulk so he can heap the praise on me, The pink girl screeched when, without warning, a certain blue, wolf-like mini-con pounced onto her from out of nowhere, and began licking her. Haha. Sabak, please. Don't, that tickles. Ruff. Sabak barked as he jumped off Mina and began going around to everyone else, giving them his own special greeting as well. Some weren't too receptive. Why yes, good boy. Kyoka muttered, her hair now cowlicked thanks to his slobber. While others actually managed to stay upright and standing. Haha. Gonna take more than that to bring me down, Sabak. Eijiro smirked as he pushed the wolf mini-con down and began rubbing his tummy, hardening up his hands just a little to make sure it tickled. Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? Aha. Guess Sabak gave you his proper greeting. The teens craned their heads up to see Springer approaching, with Fangblade walking by his side. He was really excited seeing you all on TV doing your thing, ya know. Heya, Springs. Mina greeted, only for Sabak to come back and get in her face again. Ooh, haha. So, did ya enjoy the show as much as this guy did? Springer winked and gave a thumbs up. You bet, little wrecker. Lemme tell ya, you kids really gave it your all out there. He glanced down to Izuku in particular, sending a nod his way. And you, Izuku, ya really showed him what a champion looks like. Something tells me that no one'll be underestimating you anytime soon. Izuku got a chuckle out of that. Haha, yeah, thanks Springer. The greenette glanced down to his arms, a tang of worry rising in his chest. Now all that's left is to see if any hero agency would be willing to draft a guy whose quirk breaks his bones. After all, some could see me more as a liability than an asset in that regard. The triple changer waved that notion off, however. Don't think too hard about it. If anyone passes over you, they'd just be missing out. He spread his arms out toward the group. But hey, let's not focus on that for now. After all, this is about celebrating your victory, so we've got better things to do tonight than worry about that. Yeah, speaking of which, where is everybody? Denki asked. I would have thought our bots would be the first to greet us at the gate. WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHK. Strongarm transformed into robot mode and directed them over to the main hangar, which was oddly cast almost in pitch-black darkness. The entryway provided a little light, but other than that, they could hardly see anything. They're waiting for us as we speak. Strongarm winked. Come on, I think you'll get a kick out of this. Warily, the teens all followed the cadet in, with Windblade, Red Alert, Springer and the mini-cons bringing up the rear. Despite everything, though, they couldn't see anything even after walking in. Strongarm. What's going, Chum? All of a sudden, the lights were switched on, taking everybody off guard. What the? Surprise. A chorus of voices came blaring at the students as their eyes adjusted, and what they saw made their jaws drop. Of course, they were greeted by the sight of the other Autobots, but the large and prominent banner reading, "Congratulations." Hanging over the hangar door was what got their attention first, as well as all of the confectionaries and drinks settled across several tables set up throughout the room. They would have questioned how the Autobots did all of this, if it weren't for the presence of their teachers. Of course, as expected, All Might was there, front and center with Optimus. But, in addition, there was Aizawa, Nezu, Midnight, Smintos, Snipe, Ectoplasm, Present Mike, 13, and Power Loader as well. Even Recovery Girl was there, along with Marissa and Agent Burns, too. Essentially every teacher associated with Class 1A was there, much to the shock of everyone. And what was more astonishing was, most of them were in normal civilian clothes. Agent Burns raised the cup in his hand toward the kids. Hey, there they are. About time. We were wondering how long we'd have to wait around here in the dark. Marissa quipped as well. The students all blinked to make sure they weren't seeing things, with Mina screeching, wait, what? Haha. Yes, I knew they'd be at a loss for words. Midnight pumped a fist victoriously. She was dressed in a casual black jacket with a white undershirt, with a pair of red stilettos and a pair of jeans that hugged her hourglass form. She was also holding a red solo cup filled with a certain substance that she snuck in. Just so long as the kids, or Nezu, don't see that I have this, I should be fine. Nimari winked at them as she approached. So, I take it you weren't expecting this. Eijiro shook his head vehemently. And no, Miss Midnight. We just expected it to be a party with us and the Autobots. What are you all doing here? After witnessing all of your hard work you put in the festival's events, we felt it necessary to help put this celebration together. Ectoplasm elaborated, dressed head to stubby foot in an outfit that nearly covered his entire body. And besides, since we all worked together on that mission a couple days ago, it seems only fitting. Marissa jerked her thumb up to Optimus. That and Prime had no clue how to throw a human-sized party, so he was practically begging for our help. That got a laugh out the teens while Prime cleared his vents in exasperation. Ahem, yes, well, moving tiny things can be difficult for beings such as us. Kyoka smirked and crossed her arms. Hey, yeah, tiny compared to you guys. She scanned her eyes across all of the various food and drinks, some of which were specially prepared. But I gotta say, you all really outdid yourselves. Huh, thanks. Bulkhead pointed up toward the banner. B and I worked on that last night, actually. Hope y'all like it. Denki noticed that the banner had several paint splotches on it resembling robotic hand and footprints, along with a few rips here and there. All this made him realize that there were probably a few mishaps in the banner making process. Yeah, Bulk, it's really cool. It certainly has a homemade feel to it, that's for sure. Izuku noted, before suddenly getting picked up. Whoa. In no time at all, he was on Bumblebee's shoulder, the scout buzzing a victorious tune as he marched back and forth through the room. Ahaha. B, come on, are we really doing this now? ZKKT, all hail the conquering hero. Yadie da 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 da. As Bumblebee piped in marching band music through his radio, the room was filled with laughter in an instant. Even the teachers couldn't help but join in on the merriment, aside from Aizawa, of course, though he wasn't exactly a party person. This was eventually brought to a stop, however, when Optimus stepped in, raising a hand to his scout. Haha, I know that you must be very excited about this, Bumblebee. He nodded down to Izuku as well. Believe me, I am as well. Congratulations, Izuku. You certainly showed the world what you can do this day. Words cannot express my pride. I second that. All Might said as he approached his pupil, whom Bumblebee let down so he could meet him. Young Midoriya, when I took you on to train your quirk all those months ago, I never would have dreamed that you would make so much progress in such a short amount of time. You've truly said to the world, I am here, and through that, I'm certain that several agencies will be interested in recruiting you. While Izuku's eyes glistened and his lower lip quivered in joy, All Might raised his cup to the other 1A students as well. And that goes for all of you, too. No matter where you placed in the sports festival, I have no doubt that you will be attracting agencies from all over Japan. Best of luck with the internships, young students. Man, oh man, gotta admit, I'm a bit nervous about that coming up. Eijiro admitted. But Sideswipe was quick to reassuring him. Come on, Eiji, ya knocked him dead at the festival, so I'm not sure what you've got to be nervous about. The Red Lambo brother gave a shrug. I mean, it's just an internship. How hard can it be? Exceedingly, Sideswipe. Nezu spoke up, the rodent-like creature of a principal shuffling his way over. After all, this is where our students' mettle is truly put to the test. The sports festival is but a warm-up, the internships are where the real challenge begins. Principal Nezu is right, Izuku nodded. With all those eyes on us, no doubt the heroes that'll try to recruit us will have high expectations. It's time to buckle down and start taking things seriously. May placed her hands on her hips, wearing a determined smile and giving a thumbs up. And don't you worry, I'll make sure that all of your gear is up to date before you head out for your internships next week. Sunstraker's optics widened at that. Whoa, next week. Talk about a quick turnaround. Windblade, however, saw the logic in it right away. Well, I imagine it has to be. After all, any later and the hype from the sports festival would die down and people would be less likely to recruit. She glanced down to Nezu for confirmation. Is that right? The principal raised a paw. Precisely. Keeping the students' performances in everybody's minds is a major factor when it comes to the recruitment period. But he waved his paw to dismiss the topic. However, that can wait for another day. Right now, we have some major news to discuss before the festivities get underway. Optimus, if you would be so kind. The Prime placed a hand over his chest. I appreciate your consideration, Principal Nezu. However, he gestured over to the Autobot police cadet across the room. I feel it would be best if Strongarm started things off. Thank you, Optimus, sir. Strongarm saluted as she took to the center of the room, taking a deep intake to steel herself. First of all, I must apologize. We believed it would be prudent to start with the more unfortunate news first, and I believe you all know exactly what that means. The downcast expressions adorning everyone's features were all she needed for an answer. Right, so as you all have heard, the hero Ingenium, Tenya Ida's older brother, was attacked and left for dead by a villain. The fortunate part is that he did survive the encounter and is expected to recover, but not fully. She closed her optics solemnly. After having a discussion with the doctor, I have learned that despite the surgeries, it has been found that Tensai has been paralyzed from the waist down. A collective gasp rang through the whole room, followed by the teachers all muttering worriedly. The teenagers were left the most stunned by the news, however, with Izuku's eyes widening as the reality hit him. But, then that means. Yes, Tensai's hero career is likely at an end. Strongarm affirmed. Momo was almost trembling at the news, her hand reaching up to cover her mouth. Oh my god, next to her, she saw that Mei was also trembling a bit, though she saw that her eyes were both filled with sadness and, a bit of anger. Or was it determination? How odd, what is she thinking? But, that's not fair. Ochako exclaimed, with small tears brimming her eyes at the thought of her friend's anguish. He's Tenya's hero. How could this happen? Aizawa was quick to speak up about that. Let this be a lesson for you kids going forward. His eyes narrowed seriously. It's like I said at the beginning of the semester, being a hero isn't something that's fair. Often enough, things like this will happen. A villain can get the better of a hero and end their career in mere seconds. Examples like Ingenium and Water Hose from a couple years back is evidence of that. The teens all winced at the reminder. The two-in-one hero, Water Hose, a married couple who had very similar quirks, had both been brutally beaten to death by an immensely strong villain that they could do nothing against. It had been a senseless tragedy. This is insane, Denki whispered to himself. It is a harsh reality, to be sure. Optimus spoke up. Which is why we are giving you all a word of warning if you are in the Hosu area. If you find yourself going there for any reason at all, have your Autobot partner accompany you. His irises furrowed as he reached over to the nearby control panel, bringing up an image on the big screen. It was a news article reporting on Ingenium's attack, and the headline sent a chill through everyone who read it. Because if the reports on who is responsible for this are accurate, we have a major problem on our hands. The headline read, Attack on Ingenium, Hero Killer Responsible. The main image of the article was a split one, with Ingenium's helmet on the right side while a shadowy figure loomed in an alleyway on the right. There wasn't much to make out of the figure aside from the unruly hair, the glowing reds of his eyes, and the tattered mess of scarves and bandages covering him, along with a slew of blade holsters. All Might lowered his head, his grip threatening to crush his drink cup. The hero killer, Stain. Are you serious right now? Kyoka uttered. The hero killer is in Hosu. That's what the authorities believe, yes. Smintos lamented. The poor Iida family, to have their eldest son targeted by the hero killer himself. RC pursed her lips in disgust. Hero killer, I have no doubt that this guy is bad news, but what's the story on him? Snipe hummed as he tried to recall that. Story goes he used to be a vigilante who flunked out a hero school, but still wanted to bring justice to criminals. He lowered his head with a small growl. But, somewhere along the way, it's said that his views on hero society were left twisted, though no one knows exactly why. After that, he's said to have gone round seeking to purge all the unworthy heroes who he sees as unjust. He usually targets heroes who are just in it for the fame or money. Present Mike noted as well, which made Ochako and Denki suddenly freeze up. Hey, no judging here, but I'm just stating the facts. In any case, he usually leaves his victims, well, dead, but sometimes he'll leave them alive to spread his message. And what message is that? Bulkhead asked. That he will show society what heroes truly are. Ectoplasm grumbled before setting his sights over to the number one hero. Unfortunately, no one's been able to get a handle on him. He moves faster than anybody can track him, to the point that he leaves no trace of his presence at his crime scenes. All Might gave a hefty sigh, his characteristic smile gone. It's why no one, not even myself, has been able to track him down. He finally crushed his cup in frustration. And what's worse is that every single time, he calls me out. Saying that, I am the only one worthy of killing him. The symbol of peace brought fist down through one of the tables, which thankfully only had plates and cups on it. But all the while, he didn't notice that he was beginning to steam up. It frustrates me to no end. It's like he's taunting me. All Might. Mina pointed at him in confusion. Why is your body smoking? If Toshinori still had a stomach, it would have done a flip. He peered down to see that his body was trembling, unable to keep the form up after having to use it on and off all day. GKK. And no, he glanced over to the teachers, who were all visibly worried about what would happen next. Izuku and Kyoka also were concerned, the duo trying to make up an excuse. I think he's just, so mad that he's boiling up. Kyoka guessed half-heartedly. All Might, please. Optimus inserted himself in, nodding down to the shaking, steaming hero. I believe it's time to let everyone in on your condition. Next to the Prime, Bumblebee buzzed in agreement, which only served to make the other Autobots perplexed. Whatcha talkin' bout, Prime? Jazz asked. Know something we don't. Izuku could see All Might's hesitancy written across his features, though, no matter how much he tried to hide it with his fake smile. All Might. He stepped forward, meeting his hero's gaze. I know you want to keep this secret from as few people as possible, but I'm sure you can trust everyone here to keep it. He craned his head back to his friends. Right, guys. Ochako was quick to agree. Yeah, of course. All Might, please, you look like you're struggling and it's causing you pain. Whatever this is, you can be sure we'll keep it secret. You have our word. Behind her, Momo, Mei, Eijiro, Mina and Denki all nodded to him, giving their word as well. Well, I appreciate that, young Uraraka. All Might bowed his head as he let the steam envelope him, changing him back to his normal appearance. But be warned, this is far from pretty. Once the steam cleared, everyone from Autobot to human was greeted by the sight of Toshinori Yagi, the lithe man now swimming in his yellow pinstripe tuxedo. In turn, he was met with several astonished faces, eyes wide, mouths open in disbelief. See, what did I tell ya? Mei had to rub her eyes to make sure there was nothing wrong or her quirk wasn't playing tricks on her. Wait, All Might. Is that you? Yep, sure is, Toshinori affirmed. Drink it in, everybody. This is who I really am, at least, who I've been for the past 5 years or so. But how in the world did you get like this? Momo shook her head. How does the #1 hero become so skinny? Toshi gave a sigh and took off his jacket, allowing him to access his button-up shirt. It's probably better to show than tell you. Lifting up the white undershirt, All Might revealed the massive, impact-shaped scar on his left side, eliciting another round of gasps from those not in the know. Yeah, pretty gross, I know. Whoa, Bulkhead and Springer were both left reeling from the sight of the incredibly thin man, the former pointing out, damn, All Might, that wound looks like some of the stuff we've seen on our recon missions. Yeah, I've seen bots come away with wounds like that. Springer added. How the pit did you get that? Lowering his shirt back down, Toshinori answered. It was a villain attack from a long time ago. His gaze was focused on the children as he explained. You kids probably don't remember this, but years ago, I fought a villain called the Toxic Chainsaw. It was a battle that I kept mostly on the down low, but it eventually leaked on the internet and started spreading as a rumor. Eijiro's eyebrows rose up. Whoa, yeah, I remember that rumor. So, you're saying it was true. And that this is the result of that fight. Denki furthered. The #1 hero nodded. Yep, all true. And unfortunately, it cost me a lot. Lost my entire stomach and more in that fight. Of course, this was only half the truth. Toxic Chainsaw didn't really exist, it was only a cover-up name for the real villain that he battled all those years ago. Of course, I can't tell any of these kids about him yet. Hell, I haven't even told young Midoriya about him yet. And it's probably best to stay that way for now. He bowed to his students apologetically. Please, forgive me for keeping this a secret from you. If anyone found out that the symbol of peace was like this. It's all right, All Might. Momo assured, bowing back to him. We understand. Yeah, I mean, we all know how important keeping up an image for the public is, especially for you. Mina said with a sympathetic smile. Besides, we're just glad that you managed to survive that whole fight to begin with. That managed to get a smile out of All Might, the man chuckling breathily. HM, you're too kind, ladies, but there's still an unfortunate inevitability to this. He gestured over to Izuku. As you're no doubt aware by now, Optimus Prime and I have been mentoring young Midoriya in how to use his extremely powerful quirk. You've also noted that there are several similarities between our quirks. Well, there's a deeper meaning to that. Soon, my time as the symbol of peace will be coming to an end. My body just can't handle much more. I'm able to only be All Might for a couple hours each day. And because of that, I've deemed it necessary to name a successor. He placed a hand on Izuku's shoulder. And you're looking at him. Once more, a round of gasps rang through the whole room, which included some of the teachers this time. But this only made Aizawa smirk beneath his bandages. HMPH, knew it. Wait, so you're saying that Izuku's going to become the #1 hero one day? Sideswipe asked. Toshinori scratched his cheek. Well, not necessarily. The two aren't mutually exclusive, you know. He shook his head before bringing his eyes to Izuku, who met his gaze once again. But no, my intent is to help young Midoriya master his powerful quirk, so he may use it to take my place as the symbol of peace one day. Izuku spared a brief look to all of his friends. The only one who wasn't completely flabbergasted was Kyoka, and even then, she was taking this all rather seriously. That's why I wanted to win the sports festival so badly. Izuku explained, so that I could show the world what I was capable of. I know this must be a lot to take in. Damn, man. Eijiro sat down in the nearest chair, taking it all in. When ya put it like that, it actually kinda makes some sense. Mei also seemed a bit shell-shocked by the whole thing as well. Wow, muscles. Never would have guessed. Running a hand through her hair, Mina took some time to let that settle in. A world without All Might, it sounds almost too good to be true. Things are starting to add up a bit more now. Ochako admitted, but all the same, she wore a supportive smile. But I think you'll be a perfect choice as a successor, Deku. She raised her fists to emphasize her point. After all, your goal in wanting to become a hero is probably the most heartfelt out of all of us. That's something I can respect. Hell yeah, man. Denki gave a thumbs up. You've got my future vote for, symbol of peace, I can say that much. Kyoka rolled her eyes. Pretty sure it doesn't work like that, all the same, she gave a wink to her best friend. Still, I've got your back on this one, Izuku. Count on it. RC gestured toward her Autobot comrades, who all gave their own support as well. Same with all of us, Izuku. We'll be sure to help in any way we can. Izuku couldn't help but blush again, scratching his neck sheepishly. Man, and here I thought winning the sports festival was a bit much. Now these guys are being even more supportive of me. He let out a small laugh, hoping to change the subject. Thanks guys. But maybe it's time we move on to the rest of the news, huh? Optimus, I think you mentioned that you guys managed to locate a new relic earlier, yeah? Yes, we did. Red alert, if you would. At his leader's behest, the medic wasted no time in entering a new command on the console, bringing up a map of the world. On it, a small blip appeared in the middle of Australia, which Optimus pointed to. This is where our latest relic is located, directly in the middle of what you humans call the Australian outback. That news made Eijiro smile eagerly. Oh, hell yeah, man. I've always wanted to go to Australia. His remark received several stares, making him tilt his head. What? Momo extended a hand toward him. I'm sorry, Kirishima, but, you want to go to the outback. A place that can kill you if you look at the wrong animal funny. Kyoka added, leaning in on the conversation. With a confident smirk, Kirishima hardened his hand and chest, bashing his fist against it. You think anything on that continent can hurt me? Please, let me at a kangaroo and I'll show it who's boss. He saluted up to Optimus, stating his request, permission to come along on this mission, sir. Me too. Mina raised her fists, ready for action. I'm pretty sure I can handle any poisonous animal in Australia. Midnight couldn't help but deadpan at that. Pretty sure that acid and poison aren't mutually exclusive, Ashido. Yeah, besides, you guys have gone on every mission so far. Denki pointed out, pointing his thumb between him and Momo. Meanwhile, the likes of us have only gone on one since we got permission to head out on these missions. It was at that point that Bulkhead went over, stomping his foot to get their attention. Okay, let's not let this devolve into a fight. How about this, we'll decide who gets to go tomorrow when we actually head out, alright? The teens all glanced to one another before Mina answered for all of them. Yeah, okay, that sounds fair. Great, Izuku said in satisfaction. And don't worry, you guys won't have to worry about me taking up a slot. He's lifted his slung up arm for emphasis. I've gotta wear this for a full day tomorrow, so I'm gonna be taking it easy. Yeah, same. Kyoka put her hands behind her head. After today, I think we could all just chill a little bit. Ochako glanced up to RC. Yeah, and we'll be busy too, right RC? The pink Autobot snapped her fingers. Oh, yeah, that's right. I promised I'd help you shop around tomorrow. RC winked, giving Ochako a two-fingered salute. Well, don't worry, I'll be sure to hold up my end of the bargain. Thanks. That means a lot, actually. Ochako's cheeks became pink as she scratched her head sheepishly. See, it's actually been a couple weeks since I went shopping and my fridge is almost empty. Having someone to help out with the groceries is gonna be a big help. Very well, it is decided, then. Optimus craned his head down toward the 14s. Arrive here in the morning should you want to attend the mission. I'll be sending your guardians to pick you up. Momo, Mina, Eijiro and Denki all saluted. Yes sir. The Prime gave a nod back. Excellent. Now, onto the second major news that I wished to share with you all. Jazz, red alert. Affirmative. Red stated as he typed in a new command on the console, with Jazz doing a side step up next to him. Once again, the screen in front of them changed, this time to some sort of audio mixer with bars and lines fluctuating with the sound. Following the rescue mission on Saturday, Jazz and I managed to finally unscramble the message that had been sent to Cybertron all those eons ago. The one that was found and left behind by Padlock and his team. This news managed to excite the teens even further. Whoa, really? May squeaked in excitement. Ah, Red, what the heck? Why didn't ya tell me sooner? I would have been all over it. Haha, slow yo, roll there, May. Jazz raised a hand. We wanted to keep this a surprise y'all. Cuz lemme tell ya, you're gonna wanna hear this. Hit it, Red. The medic did as asked and pressed play, activating the message. What followed was the sound of a deep, baritone and rather husky voice, which also somehow sounded very smooth at the same time. It sounded intimidating, but also rather hopeful as it spoke, and so, my friends, we send our message to the future. Even as the asteroid hurtles toward this planet, we stand together in the face of catastrophe, with courage, and good cheer. RAAAAAHH. The bot roared, and at the same time, everyone could hear several other primal roars in the background before the message cut off. The whole room was silent for a moment, contemplating what exactly all that was. Whoa, who was that? Smintos questioned. Jazz rubbed his hands together in anticipation. Ooh, ho, that, my friend, was the voice of none other than Grimlock. Mina's eyes lit up immediately. I don't know who that is, but he has a badass name. I'm interested. Well, Grimlock is a very old friend of mine. Optimus elaborated, though he eyed the screen with a questioning optic. Granted, we didn't see optic to optic on several things, but when it came right down to it, there was no better bot to have on your side. Grimlock used to be one of the greatest gladiators on all of Cybertron. Springer added with a smirk. He'd be able to best any bot who got in his way with hardly any problem at all. The only one he could never beat was Megatron himself, and even then, they'd often end up in ties. In a way, Grim respected old Buckethead, that is until the war broke out. Then, he made it his mission to stop the Khans and their totalitarian regime from taking over, gathering up some of his best friends from the fight pits to create the Lightning Strike Coalition force. Bulkhead let out a laugh as he slapped Springer on the shoulder. Ha. Oh man, do I remember some fantastic stories from when the Wreckers teamed up with him. They were unstoppable on the battlefield. He counted off the members on his fingers. Ya had Slug, who was Grim's second in command and arguably the most violent of them all. there was Snarl, the team's medic and resident grouch. Oh, and how could anyone forget about Sludge? Hee hee, that big, lovable dummy. And then ya had Swoop. Oh, man, I think even Perceptor was jealous of the amount of knowledge she had going for her. And of course, there was Grim himself. Springer reminded. A gentle bot and great pal off the battlefield, but when you put a battalion of cons in front of him, who, you did not want to get in the way of the carnage that followed. The more I'm hearing, the more psyched I am about these guys. Ajiro pumped a fist. And you're saying they're on Earth? Yep, they left Cybertron on the Ark, though we weren't entirely sure why. RC admitted. After a mission gone wrong, they had ended up captured by the Decepticon scientist, Shockwave, only to be found later in the Sea of Rust after having wrecked his secret base. She hung her head as she remembered what had happened. But when they came back, they were changed, somehow. They appeared somewhat different, and some even spoke different than how they did before. And Grim, he was angrier than I had ever seen him. A glimmer of hope could be seen on Arcee's features as she pointed to the console. But that voice in the message, that sounded like the Grimlock I knew. The one who loved adventure and bashing cons' heads in for fun. Strongarm brought her hand to her chin in curiosity. Makes you wonder exactly what happened to him while he was on this planet. Maybe he just needed time to vent. I'm not sure what happened, but we need to find out. Windblade clenched a determined fist. If Grim's somewhere loose on this planet and if we can find him, then we might be one step closer to finding the whole Ark. Optimus concurred with her thinking. I agree, Windblade, though the priority is making sure that Grimlock is alive and well. Izuku raised his decent hand. Excuse me, Optimus, but, where would we even begin searching for Grimlock? That, I am uncertain of, Izuku. The Prime admitted. There is no way to trace where on this planet the message originated due to the amount of time that has passed since it was sent. So, we will have to use every resource we have in this search. He brought up his own fist as he continued his speech. But rest assured, we will find him. When Agent Fowler returns from his overseas mission, I will be certain that it is the first thing I inform him on, but for now, I believe it's time to get this celebration underway. He raised his hand out toward the room. So, feel free to eat, drink and revel in the festivities, everyone. For tomorrow, the search for the relic in Grimlock begins. He received a cheer from the team as they all began to gather around the tables, ready to get the party started. Up in space, meanwhile, just above the Earth's moon, a trail of blue light could be seen shooting across the inky black darkness. At first, one could mistake this for a shooting star, until the light began bouncing around from meteor to meteor as if it had a mind of its own. And that's because it did. Once the light began closing in on the natural orbiting satellite, it slowed down so that it could come to a stop on the moon's surface. Whatever it was landed, kicking up a cloud of dust, and revealing itself to be a Cybertronian. She was a tall, slender femme who wore her Autobot insignia upon her chest with pride, the white outline around it preventing the symbol from blending into her overall red color scheme. Her breastplate, shoulder pads, forearms, groin area and lower legs were all plated in red, with her legs in particular having a unique design. They were flared out near her ankles, resembling flared pants with black detailing near the bottom. Her feet were painted bright white with black soles, resembling a pair of running shoes. She also had orange metal parts as well, from her biceps, her midsection, her upper legs, all the way to her hands and fingers. And near her sternum was a glowing, blue energy core, which died down a bit when she came to a stop. On her back were a pair of wing-like thrusters, which also deactivated. And as for her helm, it was sterling silver and relatively round, with some brown detailing around her chin which resembled a strap. It was also adorned with a yellow head crest that was curved and swept back, ending in a point almost as if it was blowing through the wind. Her face was painted the same shade of yellow aside from her lips, which were done in orange instead. Over her blue optics was an orange visor that resembled a pair of aviator goggles, which flipped up so she could take a gander at the planet before her. Whoa, so this is Earth, the femme said in a Cockney, British accent. Wow, would y'all look at that lil, blue marble. It's so cute. Haha, to think, this is where my mates are. They're all down there, waitin' for me. A smirk came to her lips as her goggles came back down, entering a ready position as if she was preparing to sprint. All the while, the energy core in her chest and her thrusters began to light up again. Well, don't worry, loves. Flare-ups, air. And that means the cavalry's a-comin'. With that, the Autobot known as Flare-Up disappeared into a streak of blue light, racing down toward the planet below. Chapter 36, Away Off Day Off. Beast 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 beast. Click. Moo. Itsuka Kendo groaned as her eyes flittered open, greeted by the harsh reality before her. It was morning, and she had to go to work. Her teal-green eyes found her alarm clock after her hand did, the large, red numbers reading. 7 o'clock. She had to be at her shift in an hour. Thankfully, the McDonald's she worked at wasn't far away from where she lived, so that wasn't a problem. But, a few more minutes wouldn't hurt. Smack. Ow. The redhead yelped after her own hand had come crashing down on her face, the hit being doubly effective thanks to her quirk. Her hand had subconsciously grown larger and got her up for her. Alright I get the picture. For all her complaining, though, Itsuka didn't really have a reason to. After all, she had actively volunteered to take the morning shift on her 2 days off from school. Namely so that she could have her afternoons off for a change. She worked most days except Saturdays and Sundays, so a change of pace for a couple days off from school was something she was quick to take advantage of. She swung her legs over to the side of her bed and stood up, stretching from side to side as her muscles popped across her body. Man, guess I'm lucky I didn't make the finals, otherwise that probably would have been worse. In about 20 minutes, she performed her morning routine. Brush teeth, take a shower, do up her hair in her signature side ponytail. By the end, Itsuka gave herself one last glance over in the mirror to make sure she was presentable. Granted, she didn't use much makeup, one of the reasons she was often called a tomboy, but it never hurt to double check. She got dressed, putting on a simple white tee, a pair of black pants, her sneaker and a green, zip-up hoodie that matched her eyes. It was a bit plain, but it had to be considering she'd change into her uniform the moment she got there. Okay, wallet, got it. Keys for my door and bike lock. Got 'em. As she ran over her checklist in her head, Itsuka's eyes trailed up to a picture that was tacked on the wall just beside her bed. It was a picture of her goal when it came to this job, a Kawasaki Ninja motorcycle. Ever since she was a kid, Itsuka had a thing for bikes. Her dad had gotten her into them at a young age, and the Kawasaki brand was always her favorite. So sporty and streamlined, and also really fast. It was her dream to own one in red or orange, her favorite colors. The class rep of 1B gave the picture a smile and nodded to herself. Alright, off I go. She made her way to the door of her apartment, briefly unlocking it to open and relocking it again once she stepped out. Living on her own after moving to Musutafu so she could attend UA, she had to learn to be cautious about locking her doors. After that, she went down to ground level and went over to her bike, unlocking it from the rack before heading off to the McDonald's a few blocks away. On the opposite side of that same building, however, a certain pink sports car pulled up to the curb, honking its horn to signal a certain brunette. Sadie poked her head out the driver's side and whistled for her friend. Hello, Ochako. The disguised Autobot sang up to the apartment on the top floor. I'm here. Time to get up, sleepyhead. From there, RC waited, and about 20 minutes later, a still half-asleep Ochako came lumbering out from her apartment, walking away from it, while the door was still open. Chaco. The door. Ochako's half-lidded eyes sprang open in realization. Oh, crap. She zipped back around, locked and closed her door, and then rushed down the steps to meet RC. Sorry if I made you wait, RC. I honestly almost forgot how early you were coming. It's no problem at all. RC waved off with a cheery grin. Besides, after an eventful day like yesterday, I can't blame you for wanting to sleep in a little. She watched Ochako get in and strap herself up, the brunette ready to roll. Okay, so where are we off to first? Well, there's a grocery store that's not too far away from here, actually. Ochako pulled a flyer from out of her purse as she explained. In fact, I'd usually walk there normally, it's that close. She pointed to the flyer with excitement in her eyes. But they're having a sale on vegetables today, so I want to take advantage of these deals when I can. That's why I wanted to get there early. RC nodded in understanding. I see. And anything else while we're there? Ochako glanced back to the flyer. Nothing else much, really. Just the bare essentials. Water, eggs, milk, some lunch meat, that kinda stuff. The Autobot blinked in surprise. Really? Ochako, is that all you buy? I'm kinda poor, remember? The girl deadpanned with pursed lips. I can pretty much only afford to spend about 100 yen a week on groceries. Trust me, RC, I've got bargain shopping down to a science. Well, yeah, but, oh well, if you insist. RC opened up her center console and reached in, pulling out a whole wad of yen that made Ochako's eyes bug out of her head. Guess I won't be able to use this today. RC. Ochako screamed in disbelief. What? When, HOW did you get that much money? The pink Autobot smiled victoriously. Oh, Marissa loaned it out to me. Told me to treat you well today on her behalf. Ochako's hands flew up to her face in disbelief. But, I don't. RC reached over and clasped a hand on her partner's shoulder. Ochako, listen, I know that you might not feel like you deserve it, but after the performance you showed yesterday, you can't be any more wrong. She gave her a supportive wink. There's nothing wrong with someone helping you out every once in a while, and besides, you earned it. Just make sure to thank Marissa when you next see her, K. The brunette's lower lip trembled slightly. She had always been hesitant when it came to accepting things like this, especially when it came to money. She would rather work to earn it herself, but it was still very touching to hear that someone cared enough to help her out. SNF, okay. Her voice cracked, giving RC a shaky smile. Thank you, RC. No problem at all, the intelligence officer assured. Now come on, let's get to the store and stock you up. A couple hours later, just across town, Izuku's eyes were cracking open as the light of the rising sun shined through his blinds. He let out a soft groan at his awakening, sitting up in bed while rubbing the remaining sleep away. Very rarely do I ever get to sleep in, and after yesterday, I'm really grateful for that. Even as he stood up, he felt his stiff muscles and bones popping with each movement, but that wasn't going to be enough to deter him. Especially after seeing his first place medal hanging on the wall next to his bed. Wow, never knew something so simple could give me such a strong shot of dopamine. Wasting no time at all, he made his way out of his room, greeting his mother on the way to the bathroom so he could at least brush his teeth. Unfortunately, a shower would have to wait until he could take off his cast. Let's see, I think recovery girl said I could take the wrapping off my left arm and the cast off my right, though my right one's gonna have to stay wrapped in bandages until at least tomorrow morning, he muttered to himself. Ding dong. Izuku craned his head toward the bathroom door at the unexpected doorbell ring, but it didn't take long until he found out who was there. Oh, hello, dear, he heard his mother exclaim before calling out to him. Izuku, sweetheart, a certain Miss Jiro is here to see you. Izuku's eyes nearly bulged out of their sockets. Kyoko was here, and he was still in his all-might pajamas. Wait, please, I'm not even near ready. He hastily went to charge back into his room, going so far as to charge up full cowling as he opened the door, only to trip on the doorframe on his way out. Crash. He heard his mother gasp. Izuku, what have I told you about running in the house? Shori. Izuku muffled into the carpet, before hearing a couple footfalls approach him. He dared not look up, he could already hear her usual snarky tone. Hee, gotta say, Green Bean, you sure know how to welcome a girl into your home. Nice jammies, by the way. Now a complete, blushing mess, Izuku hesitantly spared a glance up, and if his eyes hadn't bugged out earlier, they certainly were now. Above him stood what could only be described as a punk goddess, one who made his jaw open in astoundment. Kyoko was wearing a black jacket over a purple top with holes near the neck. It was almost like her hero costume, only this jacket was denim and not leather, and it had plenty of pockets and zippers. Her legs were adorned with black jeans that were frayed and worn at the knees, along with a pair of high-top sneakers on her feet. To top it all off, she had on a set of matching wristbands and a choker, all with metal studs going around them. Izuku was at a loss for words, until Kyoko brought him back to reality. You okay, Zuku? Not awake yet or something? You no. I am, it's just, Izuku sat up, lowering his head to hide his blush. I didn't expect you to be here this early. Yeah, well, Brian wanted to get an early start. Kyoka explained with a shrug. Something about giving Prime and the others good time to get ready for their outing. Right. The one for all inheritor drummed his fingers on his cast awkwardly. I wish I knew about that sooner so I could've, changed into my own clothes. Kyoka giggled at that before helping him up to his feet. Don't worry about it. Trust me, if the roles were reversed here, I think I'd probably be way more embarrassed than you are right now. She couldn't help but smirk as she eyed his pajamas again. Just be glad that your jammies don't have All Might's face on 'em or anything. An awkward laugh escaped Izuku's throat. Ha. Why yeah, thank God, inside his mind. Meanwhile, note to self, make sure she never goes into my closet. He made his way to his room, giving her a wave. Well, I'm gonna go change, so I'll be out in a minute. This made the punk rocker tilt her head. You don't need help or anything. I mean, it probably won't be easy with that cast, at least with your shirt. If anything, that only made Izuku's cheeks redden even more, which is when Inko stepped in. I'll be helping him with that, sweetie. She waved her hand toward the living room. Please, feel free to make yourself comfortable, and we'll be out in a couple minutes. Gotcha. Thanks, Mrs. Midoriya. As Kyoka left, Inko ushered her son into his room, where he gave a sigh of relief. Phew, thanks, Mom. That could have gotten out of hand. You're welcome, Inko said with a knowing smile as she grabbed a green V-neck t-shirt out of Izuku's top drawer. Now, while we're doing this, why don't you tell me a little bit more about Kyoka? That made Izuku freeze up, which Inko took as an opportunity to carefully undo his sling. Well, she likes music. Oh, does she? Inko brightened up. There's a great retro music store just a couple blocks down, I think she'd like to go there. As she removed Izuku's nightshirt to pull the polo over him, she kept asking, so, does she want to incorporate music into her hero work in any way? I can tell it'd be easy given her quirk. Actually, yeah. Izuku smiled bashfully as he remembered what Kyoka's goal was. She wants to bring smiles to people's faces through her music and hero work. I find that really admirable, honestly. His hand went to his neck as he began rattling on. She's really great, honestly. I don't think I've ever met anyone half as funny as her. She's got a quick wit and she's helped me a lot when it comes to coming out of my shell. But his voice caught in his throat the moment he saw his mother's eyes glistening happily, and that's when he knew, oh, I've said way too much. I knew it, Inko exclaimed, making Izuku shush her involuntarily. Oops. Sorry, also, don't just shush your mother. Izuku bowed his head. I'm sorry, it's just I didn't want you to, Inko sighed, lowering her own head back. I know, but can you blame me for being excited? She reached out, placing her hand over her son's. My son's first high school crush, your father would be really proud. In what way? With a beaming grin, Inko waved her hand to her son. That you managed to find such a punk rocker. That made Izuku faceplant on his own bed. Well, it's true. Hisashi often told me how he'd try to land all the rock stars only to be shot down at every turn. She placed her hand upon her cheek dreamily. Of course, that's before we met and fell madly in love, but that's beside the point. Inko put both hands on Izuku's shoulders. What the point is, sweetie, is that you should take the chance and ask her out. Hold on, I don't. Of course, it doesn't have to be now, so don't feel obligated to do so just because I said so. Inko said with a wink. When you feel the time is right, then you should ask her. It's never a good idea to rush into things, That made Izuku sigh in relief. Well, I can only hope I muster up the courage to even do it. Inko pulled him into an embrace. Oh, you will, sweetie, I'm sure of it. You already said it yourself, she's helped you come out of your shell, so I think it's only a matter of time. She pulled away from the hug and shifted her focus down to the gauze wrapped around his left arm. Now, let's see about getting this off. After a few more minutes and 2 less restricted arms, Izuku emerged from his room, ready to take on the day. He wore his green t-shirt with black shorts and signature red sneakers, walking straight out into the living room to see Kyoka watching TV. MHA. Kyoko leaned her head back, looking at him upside down. Hey yourself. She winked. You ready to go? In a sec. Listen to this. Kyoko reached for the remote and increased the volume on the TV as Inko walked in, so that they could all hear the news report. A rather familiar newswoman, one who had been seen lurking around UA semi-regularly since All Might had taken his teaching position, was the one doing the talking. Unfortunately for many citizens in Hosu, yesterday's sports festival for the first years at UA High was completely upstaged by the attack on local hero, Ingenium. Next to her, a picture of Ingenium in his hero costume came up, a grave expression adorning her features. The hero, whose true identity is Tensai Iida of the famous Iida family, was struck down in one of the city's back alleys. Inko placed a hand over her mouth in shock. Oh gosh, the poor dear. Izuku's grip on the back of the couch increased. Iida. Fortunately, he is said to be in stable condition, though it is unknown if he will ever fully recover. He is thankfully surrounded by his friends and family as he recovers in an intensive care unit at the local hospital. The reporter's brow furrowed as the image changed to that of a certain silhouette with red eyes. This young man's career was put into jeopardy no thanks to the infamous hero killer, the one called Stain. This marks his fifth victim over the span of 2 months, and the news was cut off as Inko switched off the TV, her expression soured. HMPH, the hero killer. Such a despicable excuse for a human being. She turned to the teens and raised a finger at them. Now you listen here, both of you, I'd be of much sounder mind if you don't go to Hosu for the time being. Until this hero killer is caught, that city is probably the most dangerous place to be in Japan right now, so keep that in mind. We will, Mom. Izuku nodded as Kyoko stood up. We'll make sure to keep things local. Yeah, don't worry, Mrs. Midoriya. The perplet affirmed, reaching out to jab Izuku in the arm. I'll make sure your boy stays safe. Kyoko smirked as Izuku's cheeks flushed a bit. Inko bowed to Kyoko gratefully all the same. I'd appreciate that, dear. Now, I suggest you all get a move on. The day isn't going to last long, you know. Right, see you. With that, the duo walked out of the apartment, where they saw Bumblebee waiting for them at the bottom of the complex. As they strolled down the steps to him, Kyoko snickered and said, You know I was just kidding back there, right? I know you can take care of yourself well enough. The brunette scratched his cheek sheepishly. Hee hee, why yeah, say, there's a retro music store just a couple blocks down. You wanna head there first? That made Kyoko's eyes brighten up immediately, resisting the urge to yank Izuku by the arm to get there faster. You read my mind, broccoli top. Let's go. Several kilometers away in Hosu City, Strongarm was driving down the street back toward the hospital, her mind filled with thoughts of her friend and how he was taking everything. She had never seen Tenya so vulnerable before. It was almost as if he was a completely different person, filled with sadness and anguish. Of course, she remembered just how much Tenya respected his brother as well, and she had to admit, Tensai did sound very admirable. She had hoped to meet him after all the things Tenya told her about him. But under these circumstances, Strongarm only felt gloomy. Here she was hoping she'd get to discuss the hero code with Tensai and how he adhered to it but now, there was no such luck. Her eyes trailed up as she pulled into the hospital, where she made a beeline for the 4th floor. At the door to Tensai's room, she saw Mrs. Iida standing there, along with another tall man. She could see a lot of both Tenya and Tensai in him, albeit with a 5 o'clock shadow and bits of gray in his blue hair. Mrs. Iida's next words were all she needed to affirm her assumption. Oh, sweetheart, there she is. The man looked up and saw Strongarm approaching, to which he greeted her with a bow. Ah, so you must be Officer Stella Armstrong. Thank you for bringing my son here, yesterday. I know that it was very sudden, so I apologize if we interrupted your position as sports festival security in any way. Stella made sure to return the bow, but made certain to assure the man. Oh, no, it's quite alright, sir. Really, it was no problem bringing Tenya here. I appreciate your kindness. The man smiled. My name is Tendo Iida, by the way. And of course, you've already met my wife, Tae. Tae bowed to the officer as well. I know my husband and I have said this several times already, but sincerely, thank you for being there for Tenya when he needed it. Stella nodded to both of them. You're more than welcome. And again, it's an honor to make your acquaintance. Her sights went to the door behind them in concern. But speaking of your youngest, is he in there? Tendo craned his head toward the room as well. Yes, Tensai's just woken up again. We were in there earlier, so, Much to their surprise, the Iida parents saw a masked-up Tenya open the door, taking them off guard. Son, that was quick. Is everything? Father, my apologies, but when I heard Stella out here, I wanted to see her in. Tenya bowed his head to his Autobot guardian, ushering her to follow him. Please, I would like you to meet my brother. Oh, of course, Tenya. Stella smiled in appreciation. That's part of the reason why I came in the first place, actually. After giving his parents a brief, "Excuse me," she followed Tenya into the room. Thankfully, the atmosphere was much less oppressive and grave than when she was there last night, due in no small part to the natural light. Also, Tensai himself didn't have as many IVs in him, though he still only seemed barely conscious. Brother, she's here. Tensai cracked open a single eye, smiling as he saw Tenya with their guest. Little brother, so this is her, huh? Your officer friend who brought you here. Tenya gave a brief yet sad smile as he began the introductions. Yes. Brother, this is Stella Armstrong. She's been stationed as a security guard for UA several times over the past couple of months. He glanced over to Strongarm next. And Stella, this is my brother, Tensai. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. Strongarm bowed in respect. Tenya's told me so much about you. Hee, I'll bet he has. Tensai chuckled weakly. I only wish our meeting were under better circumstances. But all the same, thank you for helping my brother. He gazed upon Strongarm with a great deal of respect. Officers like you do so much to help the heroes. I greatly appreciate it every single day. If Strongarm could blush, she certainly would have. You know, I always make sure to do my best to uphold the law. Of course, it's always good to have heroes such as yourself around to help us apprehend troublesome villains. Yes, such as myself. Tensai's demeanor visibly changed, the man becoming crestfallen all of a sudden. Tenya noticed immediately. Brother, is something the matter? After a long, quiet pause, the elder Iida finally answered, Tenya, I wasn't sure if I wanted to say anything yesterday, but I can't feel my legs. They're useless. Strongarm felt her spark ache at the sight of Tenya's eyes widening in abject horror. Of course, she knew that it was unlikely that Tensai would walk again. She was told so last night, but she also knew that Tenya wouldn't take it very well. What? No way. That can't be. I'm afraid so. Tensai mumbled out. I think the hero Ingenium is finished, at least for me. Tenya's eyes brimmed with tears, his glasses getting fogged up thanks to his intense breath going up through his mask. No. You still have so many people to help and inspire, brother. His voice cracked. It can't be true. He felt Strongarm brace against his shoulder, trying to calm him down. I'm sorry, I think it is. Tensai brought his eyes up, seeing his brother's tears. But that's why, I want you to take the name. That made both Tenya and Stella pause in shock. The name, Ingenium, deserves to keep being used to help and inspire people, and I think you can do just that. I know you will become a great hero one day, so will you do that? For me, Tenya. The class rep had no idea how to respond at first. His brother, his inspiration, was asking him to take on the name of Ingenium. It was hard to take in all at once. He set his eyes onto Strongarm, hoping for some advice or even a look of support. Thankfully, she was already smiling at him with a caring gaze, undaunting in her approval. I think it's a fantastic idea, she stated wholeheartedly. The name of Ingenium deserves to be continued, don't you think? Oh, of course, but, Tenya softly clenched a fist. It's just hard to imagine ME with the name. I feel like, I have so much to prove in order to earn it. Then do just that, brother. Tensai urged, reached his hand out only to find it grasped by Tenya within a second. Continue your studies at UA. Keep studying hard, keep training, and then one day, once you feel you have earned it, feel free to use the name, Ingenium, I'm sure that you will carry it well. With his lips pressed together firmly, Tenya brought his other hand up to give his brothers a reassuring squeeze. I promise to try my best, brother. Thank you, Tenya. Tensai smiled as his eyelids began to grow heavy again. Now, I need to rest a little. It's taking a lot of energy to talk now, so. Of course, brother. Please, get some rest, and I'll see you soon. With that, Tensai felt free to close his eyes and drift to sleep, leaving Tenya to let his tears fall freely. SNF, Strongarm, do you think I can? The Autobot cadet put an arm over his shoulder. I'm sure that you will, Tenya. You're going to make your brother so proud, I just know it. She smiled as she led him over to the door. Earning the name of Ingenium will take lots of practice, though, and you know that I'm still willing to help you with your training, right? Alright. Tenya took a deep breath to collect himself, taking off his mask so that she could see his own grin. Thank you, so much. You're welcome. Now come on. We're having lunch with All Might and Jazz today. There's a lot that we need to catch you up on from last night. Shoto Todoroki was feeling quite confident today, that was for sure. He had just gotten off the phone with Keita not too long ago, relaying his plan to her and what exactly they were going to do. Of course, his best friend was on board, if a little concerned for the half-cold half-hot user, but that was understandable. After all, what he had in mind was something that he hadn't done in a long time. He was going to see his mother. It was something he had to do if he was going to start taking the necessary steps forward, moving on from letting his father bog down his mind and focusing on the hero he wanted to be. But more importantly, he needed to reconnect with his mother, to make sure that she was safe, and then. Shoto. The red and white-haired boy peered up, seeing a spectacled young woman with white hair, which had some red patches in it, standing in the nearby doorway. It was his older sister, Fuyumi, the only other one who was living in their home at the time. His father had taken to sleeping at his own agency in recent years. Shoto was thankful for her presence, of course, though he had to admit, her concern for him could be a little overbearing at times. Where are you going? She asked. The hospital. Shoto answered, slipping on his shoes. What? Fuyumi raised her head, her brother now having her full attention. Hold on, why? She reached out, taking a step forward. Why you can't just visit? Not without telling Dad, right? Without turning to face her, he reached for the door handle. Whatever, huh? But before he could open the door, she dashed over and stopped his hand. But why go now? Why see her after all this time? Shoto pursed his lips, a bit miffed at his sister stalling him. It's complicated. He met Fuyumi's eyes, seeing just how worried she was. But, if it makes you feel any better, I won't be going alone. That made Fuyumi tilt her head. Huh, what are you? Ding dong. Ah, and there she is. A soft smile came to Shoto's face, gently tugging his hand away from Fuyumi to open the door, where Keita was standing on the other side. Mornin', House of Todoroki. Keita saluted with a cheeky grin. How's it going? All at once, Fuyumi's concern melted away in favor of a happy smile. Keita. The young woman stepped out as Keita opened her arms, the two meeting in an embrace. Oh my gosh, it's been forever since you've been over. I saw you compete in the sports festival yesterday, you were awesome. Keita couldn't help but laugh a little as she returned the hug. With Endeavor out of the house more often than not, it allowed her to come and visit far more often, and in that time, her and Fuyumi had become well acquainted. Oh God, Fuyumi, it's good to see you, too. Sorry I haven't been over in a bit. Between the sports festival and my studies, my plate's been chock full. They two pulled apart, only for Keita's expression to turn sheepish. And while I'm glad you enjoyed me in the sports festival, I kinda wish I hadn't dropped the ball near the end. Oh, right, that. Fuyumi recalled the whole Triceratops incident with a wince. Sorry about that. Didn't think that would be the moment when you'd finally transform into a full dino. But hey, being in the top 3 isn't bad at all. Her eyes shifted to her brother, giving him a wink. Especially since you share that honor with Shoto, am I right? The two teenagers flinched at the implication, with Shoto lowering his head while Keita scratched her cheek in embarrassment. Yeah, of course. After a few seconds, she looked to Shoto with urgency in her gaze. You ready to head out, Shoto? The hospital's in the next town over, yeah. Alright, Shoto affirmed, ready to move on from this conversation. He stepped out of the house, but not before giving his sister one last affirming nod. It's okay, sis. I know everything will be alright. Fuyumi brought her hand up to her cheek with a sigh. Well, okay, if you say so. Best of luck, Shoto, I'll see you soon. And with that, the duo were off to the station, boarding a train in no time. On the way there, however, Keita decided to ask the ultimate question, so, you think you're really ready for this? Shoto's eyes shifted to her, to which she leaned in with a serious gaze. Listen, Shoto, I know we talked about this over the phone and all, but this is something you've gotta make sure you're all set for. How many years has it been since you've seen her? Almost 11. Shoto furrowed his brow. But I won't let that time gap get in my way. I like your conviction, that much I can say. Keita smiled fondly. If it were my mom in there, I'd go in a heartbeat, but I do have to ask, why now? Shoto remained silent for a moment before giving his answer. Ever since that day, I thought the sight of my left side would cause my mother nothing but pain. So I never visited. He met Keita's eyes, bringing his hand up to the scar across his face. But we will always be bound to each other by blood, by our history with my father. He closed his eyes as he faced forward once more. That's why, if I'm ever going to use this body and these powers to become a hero, if I'm going to give it everything I have. He felt his voice hitch a bit as Keita gently rested her hand on his shoulder, but he kept going. If I'm going to become the hero I want to be, I need to see her. There's so much we need to talk about. There was another brief silence before Keita began gently rubbing Shoto's shoulder, their train pulling into the station. I think that's great, Shoto. I hope you can reconnect with her in some way. So do I. Now come on, we're here. With that, the duo got up and left the train, walking toward the hospital with purpose. So, elaborate on something for me. Oh, Wachia need explaining. Earlier on the phone, you said your parents were going to be catching a flight tomorrow. Shoto elaborated. But I didn't get the full details. Is it a new dig? Keita's eyes lit up in excitement. Oh, yeah. Dude, you won't believe it, they've been called out to the dig site of a potential new find. A prehistoric creature that we've possibly never discovered before now. Shoto's eyebrows rose up, intrigued to say the least. Really? Sounds cool. Is it a dinosaur? That's the thing, no one knows yet. Keita replied eagerly. From the scans they took, it seems to be about as big as a dinosaur, but some are saying that it's got an upright, bipedal stance, almost as if it was some sort of giant person. It's really nothing like any dinosaur that's been discovered. Huh, neat. Neat. Keita spun around and grabbed Shoto by the collar, shaking him frantically. We're talking about the discovery of the century here and all you can say is neat. Hey, look. The hospital. Keita's lips soured as she saw the building in the corner of her eye, letting go of her best friend with a narrow-eyed glare. You win this one, Mr. Cold Brew. With a sigh of relief, Shoto led the way into the hospital, where the attendants were all quite shocked to see him. They were left doubly astonished when he asked for his mother's room, but all the same, they got the room number. Once they reached the third floor in room 315, Keita gave her friend a single nod. Okay, I'll be out here if you need me. Good luck in there, Shoto. Thanks. Shoto grinned to her briefly before taking a deep breath, reaching for the door handle. With a soft tug, he gently pulled the door open, and there she was. Rei Todoroki, the woman sitting on the edge of her bed and gazing straight out the window. Her white hair shined in the daylight, and while Shoto felt a brief hint of hesitancy pass through him, that quickly disappeared as he spoke the only two words that came to his mind. Hi, Mom. Her reaction was subtle, but immediate, her head lifting just slightly before she slowly turned toward him. Her dark eyes met his, and he could see that she was left mesmerized by his presence, and yet, there was a twinkle of happiness behind those dark orbs. I'll rescue her from this place. Shoto promised himself as he walked in. No matter what. That's my first step to getting back on track. It's what I have to do. Thanks again for picking me up, Bulkhead. Momo said as the wrecker neared Mina's house, the creation user sitting in the back of his vehicle mode. They could see the aforementioned pink girl standing out at the end of her driveway, well, more like bouncing, really. It was obvious to them that she was extremely excited. Ah, it's no problem at all, Momo. Bulkhead waved, his holoform glancing up at her through his rearview mirror. Besides, I know how weird it'd look if Windblade came to pick you up herself. Momo sheepishly smiled, scratching her cheek with a small laugh. Haha, yes, you're right, although, to be fair, private jets landing on our front lawn isn't completely out of the ordinary. Though father would probably question why it's a combat jet. Bulkhead nodded as he pulled up to the curb and opened his door. Hey, yeah, and the last thing we need is your parents asking questio, but then he cut himself off when he realized what Momo said. Wait, what? What are we talking about? Mina popped into the Hummer, taking the passenger seat. Oh, we were just talking about how Windblade wouldn't be conspicuous at my house. Momo explained. And how father would have several questions about why a combat jet would be picking me up instead of one of our private ones. With a happy smile and a casual tone she added, after all, only those planes are cleared to land on our private runway in the front yard. After that, she saw Bulkhead's eyes widen, putting on a rather shocked frown while Mina's jaw dropped all the way to her seat. What? Yao Momo, has anyone ever told you that you are obscenely rich? Mina exclaimed. It then hit Momo in that moment, she had inadvertently flaunted her wealth, again. I'm so sorry. She pressed her hands together and bowed her head. I often forget just how different my sense of normal is compared to yours. Please forgive me. Hey, there's nothing to be upset about on our end. Bulkhead reassured, shutting his doors and pulling back onto the road. Mina reached back and took hold of one of Momo's hands. Yeah, I mean, sure, it's kinda astonishing just how rich you are, but that doesn't make you any different from us. She punctuated her point with a wink. And besides, it's not like you're flaunting all that money in our faces like some prissy, stuck-up know-it-all, right? I will admit, that's true. Momo nodded in resolve. I never wanted to be like those uptight, spoiled brats. And that is definitely a good thing. Mina gave her a thumbs up as they shared a smile, before giving Bulkhead a nod. Alright, Bulk, let's do this thing. Bulkhead gave her a salute before his holoform disappeared. I hear that. Red, bridges to base. Along the open road, the ground bridge portal appeared and the wrecker drove straight in, bringing them all right into Autobot HQ. There, Springer, Sideswipe, Sunstreaker and Windblade were already gathered up, with Ajiro and Denki waiting by their sides. Bulkhead came to a stop and opened his doors, allowing Momo and Mina to get out before transforming. WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHK. Good, everyone's here. Wait, where's Red? Making some final preparations with Prime. Springer explained, closing the ground bridge. Apparently, it's something about a contingency plan, in case the cons show up. That made Mina's eyes light up in curiosity. Ooh, can't wait to see what that is. Either way, we made pretty great timing. Sideswipe gave a short chuckle. I'll say. We literally just came through a couple minutes before you did. He glanced over to his brother. Would have been a bit sooner if someone hadn't found a freaking wall-sized mirror. Sunstreaker crossed his arms with a HMPH. Come on, bro, you know I gotta make sure I look good consistently throughout the day. He gestured to his glossy finish. Paint like this doesn't come easy, you know. You should learn to take pride in that. Oh, please. Sideswipe rolled his optics. If you were any vainer about your paint job, your name would be changed to Trax. Well, at least Trax had great taste. Ow. Clang. Both brothers' heads were bashed together thanks to, of all bots, Windblade. The city speaker got between the two and jumped up, bringing her legs together in a clamping kick to knock some sense into them. Everyone watched as the Lambo brothers slumped to the floor, both in a complete daze. There, that oughta get their heads back on straight. Windblade. Momo raised a brow up to her friend. Don't you think you might have got a teeny bit overboard? Lowering herself down in a crouch, Windblade picked Momo up in her hand. Don't worry about them, they'll be fine. Not the first time they've been given the hard treatment. She gave her partner a wink. So, you ready for this mission? Momo gave an eager nod. Oh, yes, completely. I'm very glad that we decided that we'd all get to go last night. Yeah, a lot easier than arguing about who'd have to stay. Ajiro added, shouldering a backpack that he had prepped for the trip. Denki, standing casually with his hands behind his head, gave a shrug. And besides, it'll be a lot easier to cover more ground in the outback with more heads. His eyes searched around for a certain red and blue Autobot. Speaking of which, wonder what's taking Big Bot. You'd think he'd wanna get this started ASAP, right? All of a sudden, a loud laugh came echoing through the room, and right in the doorway was its source. There stood May with her goggles over her eyes and a big, toothy smirk on her lips, the young genius standing proudly with Red Alert right behind her. Ah ha ha. Ask and you shall receive, Sparky. Make way, for Optimus. The two stepped aside and allowed the Prime to enter the room, while hauling the large trailer that he had used a few times before. Now, however, it looked much different. Rather than appearing old and a bit rusty in some places, it was now completely fixed, with a sterling silver finish and a long, blue stripe down both sides. The stipe went up at an angle toward the back before flattening out again, with the Autobot insignia emblazoned on the plateau. The teens and Autobots all stared at the trailer in surprise as Optimus pulled up between all of them. Greetings, everyone. I take it you like the new edition. Why yeah, Prime. Ajiro beamed. I love what you've done with your trailer. It's so cool. Mina complimented. It does wonders to complete your overall aesthetic. Thank you very much. Prime returned. I rather enjoy it myself, especially after what Red Alert and May have done with it. That made everyone all the more intrigued. Whoa, what do you mean by that, Prime? Bulkhead asked. Optimus merely chuckled. HM, it's a surprise. One that I'll be saving for later. He pulled himself forward to face the ground bridge. But for now, let's begin our focus on the mission. Red Alert, you have the estimated coordinates entered into the ground bridge, correct? Indeed I do, sir. Red Alert went over to the control panel for the device, switching over to the correct coordinates before opening the portal back up. You should emerge roughly a mile or so from your destination. Simply head west and you should arrive there shortly. Thank you. Alright, let us begin the mission. Autobots, transform and roll out. WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHK. All at once, Bulkhead, Sideswipe, Sunstreaker, Windblade and Springer all transformed, allowing their human companions to board them once again before going through the ground bridge, leaving Red Alert and May by themselves. The duo couldn't help but share a smirk. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how badly do ya think the cons will soil themselves when they see what we did to that trailer? May snickered. Oh, I can only hope it's an 11. Red expressed his own confidence before moving over to the work table. Now, I think you said that there was something else you wanted assistance on. May gave a nod before pulling out some blueprints from behind her back. Yes sir. And lemme tell ya, she unfurled the plans, revealing a schematic of a pair of leg-length struts with a pair of boots serving as the base. They seemed designed to hook around the waist, and there was an additional piece on the waist strap that somewhat resembled a spinal cord. It's gonna be pretty big this time. Flare-Up was beginning to worry. She had been on Earth for almost an entire night and she hadn't found a single Autobot signal. Had she gotten the wrong planet? Did they pull an emergency evac? It was almost enough to send her into panic mode, but she kept herself calm. She had to, after all, if she was going to maintain her disguise. She had made planetfall just outside of a building with a ton of fast-looking two-wheeler vehicles, and after finding the sleekest one she could find and creating a helmeted holoform based on the local inhabitants, she raced off across the small island country to try and find her Autobot comrades, and she was having absolutely no luck. Okay, take a chill capsule, Flare. The femme said to herself as she turned the next corner and pulled into a parking lot. Just make a quick pit stop and think. Flare-Up went into a parking space directly in front of the building, which appeared to be some sort of human sustenance outpost. Take 5, Tracy. When no one was looking, she deactivated her holoform, putting her kickstand up as she went through her options. Okay, now why would there be absolutely no Autobot signals here at all? They wouldn't just up and leave the place this soon, would they? No, not Prime style at all. After a couple seconds, a possible conclusion reached Flare-Up's mind. Oh, maybe they're just masking their signals so that the cons won't find them. Yeah, that must be it. CHK Kling. A sudden ring caught her attention, seeing someone coming out of the establishment's front door. Oh, nuts and bolts. Gotta shut it for a sec, Just play it cool, flare. Noon time. Shift done. Thank God. I can't believe how busy breakfast is, Itsuka moaned, her legs already feeling achy from going 70 miles an hour all morning. She had no idea if she would even be able to pedal her way back home just so she could crash. You'd think that things would be a bit less busy today thanks to the sports festival, but I guess that's out the window. Itsuka leaned against the McDonald's, craning her head up toward the sky. Ah well, at least now I get most of the day to myself. Wonder what I should do first. She faced forward again and began making her way around toward the bike rack. Well, resting at home should be priority one so. Itsuka trailed off after seeing something in the corner of her eye, and from there, she was left completely wide-eyed and entranced by what was in front of her. It was her dream bike. A Kawasaki Ninja motorcycle, current model and everything, with a red and orange paint job. She blinked a couple times to make sure that she wasn't seeing things, and when her thoughts were confirmed, she felt weak in the knees. It was here, the bike she wanted so badly, and it likely belonged to someone else. Hello, gorgeous. Thankfully, that someone didn't seem to be here at the moment. So it couldn't hurt just to touch it a tiny bit. If this is a dream, I don't want to wake up. Itsuka approached the bike and ran her hands across the leather seat, smooth as silk. Oh, that's nice. Taking another quick glance around just to make sure, Itsuka swung a leg over the seat and grasped the handles. This was everything she thought it would be. It'll take a few McDonald's paychecks, but I am going to own one of you someday. Yo, class rep. Itsuka nearly fell off the bike as she swung her whole body around, clearly startled, only to come face to face with none other than Setsuna Tagake. The green-haired girl was on her own mountain bike, and she wore a mirthful, sharp-toothed smirk. Setsuna. Heya, Itsuka. Whatcha doin'? Setsuna pointed down to the bike. Thinking of taking off with that beauty. With a mad blush, Itsuka quickly got off the bike. It's not what you think. I'd never steal a motorcycle, as bad as I want one. Her classmate gave a laugh and sent a reassuring wave. Haha. Relax, I'm kidding. Sheesh, you act like you just got caught by your mom with your hand in the cookie jar. She stuck her tongue out with a wink. Besides, I just wanted to spook ya a little. Itsuka puffed her cheeks out with an annoyed glare. HMPH, well, I hope you enjoyed your little spook. Anyways, where are you off to? Oh, yeah, Tetsu, Abara and I are gonna head off to the mountains today to do a little exploring. I swung by to see if you wanted to come along with us. With a soft sigh, Itsuka shook her head, smiling apologetically. Sorry, Set, but I don't know if I've got that much energy left in me after the breakfast rush this morning. But hey, thanks for the wait. The redhead cut herself off as she raised an inquisitive eyebrow. Tetsu, I can see you going with, but, how the heck did you talk Abara into going with you? Setsuna shook her head. Oh, I didn't. She talked herself into going with us. Said something about, making sure we don't get into trouble. PSH. The green-haired girl rolled her eyes. Can you believe it? She thinks we will get into trouble, hee. The deadpan stare she was receiving from her friend made it clear that Itsuka wasn't exactly agreeing with her. Oh, I see. Setsuna put on a faux pout, sticking her chin up as she turned her head away. Taking her side, I can take the hint. Set, wait. Itsuka reached out. I didn't mean. Psyche. Setsuna laughed as she winked and stuck her tongue out again. Made ya feel bad, class rep. A sour pout made its way to Itsuka's lips. Grr, should have seen that coming. Just be careful, please. Kicking up her stand, Setsuna put her feet on the pedals, getting ready to dash off. Yeah, ya probably shoulda. But don't worry, we'll be fine. I'll catch ya later, Itsuka. Yeah, see ya. After waving her friend off and giving another hefty sigh, Itsuka's hands found themselves back on the handlebars of the bike, without noticing that someone was standing in front of the vehicle. Man, if I could only ride you just once. Oi, excuse me, love. Kendo gave another gasp and snapped her head up, coming face to face with another girl. This woman was a bit older than her, though, a Caucasian brunette with wild, wind-swept hair and blue eyes who was probably early to mid-20s. She was decked out in a brown aviator jacket with a pair of matching gloves, a set of goggles hanging around her neck along with a black undershirt, bright orange leggings and white Crocs. What is this, the early 21st century? Itsuka wondered. Who wears Crocs anymore? The brunette wore a knowing smile, raising a single brow at her. Sorry to interrupt your little, talking to yourself, sesh there, love, she spoke with a British accent as she leaned in closer with a feisty glint in her eye. But there any particular reason why you're straddling my bike like it's a handsome young lad? Itsuka immediately broke out into a blush and screamed, jumping off the bike quick as a flash. I'm so sorry, you've got it all wrong. Oh, I see, you're more into gals. No. Wrong thing to get wrong. At this point, the woman couldn't contain her laughter anymore and she broke, leaning against her bike as her guffaws escaped her throat. Ha ha ha. Oh dear, it's okay, I was just messin'. She spun around and got closer to Itsuka, nudging her with her elbow and giving a small wink. I just had to play around with ya a little. When I saw you on my bike, I thought, oh, this gal's totally in love with it, gotta make a strong impression. Thanks, I think. Itsuka tilted her head in confusion. So, you do like my bike, Itsuka lowered her head and twiddled her fingers a little. Yeah, I do. Sorry for getting on without permission, you have my dream bike and Okay, let's just slow down there, love. The young woman extended a hand toward Itsuka. First off, how about we start things over and get some proper introductions out of the way, That made Itsuka do a double take. She really hadn't introduced herself, had she? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. She gave the woman a bow. Where are my manners? My name's Itsuka Kendo, I'm a hero in training at UA High School. Her words caught the brunette's interest, for certain. Hero in trainin'. Wait, are those the costumed people I kept seein' walkin' through the streets all night long? She'd have to ask her contacts about that later, instead bowing her head back to the younger girl. It's a pleasure to meet ya, Itsuka. The name's Tracy. Tracy, an English name. Though I guess that should have been obvious with your accent. Itsuka said with an awkward grin. Well, it's nice to meet you too, Tracy. And again, sorry for being a bit forward with your bike without asking permission. Like I said, it's no biggie. Tracy smiled it off. Besides, it's obvious that we've both got the same taste in motorbikes if this is your dream one. Kendo gave a small sigh, staring wistfully at the Kawasaki. Yeah, though at this rate, I'll probably only be able to buy one when I'm your age. She nudged her head toward the McRonalds. Working here is a bit of a drag and only pays decently. And after my rather wanting performance at the sports festival, I'm probably not gonna get many hits with pro heroes for the upcoming internship draft. Now that really piqued Tracis' interest. Sports festival. Drafts for heroes. Prime, what kinda world did you even bring us to, anyway? Nevertheless, Tracy felt compelled to give her own bit of advice on the matter. Well, you know what I say. Having garnered Itsuka's attention, the brunette raised a fist, declaring, I think you've got some potential there, lass. It might take some doin', but you'll get to where I'm at sooner than you might think. She ran her hand across the hood of her bike. And, before long, you'll be driving one of these babies. But for now, Tracy gave another wink. You wanna go for a jaunt round the city? All at once, Itsuka's eyebrows shot up, almost flying off her face at the offer. What? Really? She beamed from ear to ear in excitement. Why you'd really let me ride on your bike with you? But we only just met, Ha ha ha. Oh, please, don't gimme that. Tracy waved off. You're a good gal, Itsuka, and, after seeing how much you appreciate my bike, I think it's only fitting. She reached up and booped the redhead on the nose. However, I don't got any helmets on me right now, so you'd better hold on tight, got it? Itsuka's excitement went from 100 to 50% in a single second. Wait, you don't wear a helmet. Tracy blew a lock of her wild hair out from her eyes. Well, yeah, ya don't get hair like this by wearing a helmet, love. She reached down and pulled her goggles up over her eyes with a reassuring grin. But don't worry 'bout nothin'. I've been driving motorbikes for my entire life and, not once have I gotten into an accident. You're sure? Yeah, we'll just go for a quick jaunt and we'll be back before you. Vroom. VRRM. The loud roaring of engines and seeing Tracis' horror-struck visage made Itsuka spin around, just in time to see two very sleek yet intimidating black and purple cars come pulling around the bend. They had paused across the way from the McDonald's, before then making a beeline straight for the restaurant. Itsuka felt her blood run cold as their headlights shined in her eyes. What in the world is? Change of plans. Tracy grabbed Itsuka by the arm and pulled her aboard the bike, forcibly hooking the girl's arms around her waist before hitting the ignition. Stay still, hold on, and for the love of Primus, please keep your hands where they are. Who the heck is Muse? Without any warning, Tracy backed her bike up in one of the cleanest turns that Itsuka had ever experienced before revving her engine and blasting forward, bounding over the curb and pulling off a wheeling between the two black cars. Once they were fully on the road, Itsuka shouted out, "What the hell? Sorry, love, didn't mean for that to happen." Tracy checked in her rearview, and sure enough, both cars had performed U-turns in the McDonald's parking lot and started straight after them. Didn't expect him to find me this fast. Who's them? Itsuka peeked her head over Tracis' shoulder. Who are those guys and why are they chasing after us? Tracy pursed her lips reluctantly. Well, firstly, they're mainly chasing me. And secondly, those are no guys. Tracy scanned her eyes around the general area before seeing a sign that read, "Off-ramp, east." Bingo. There's our getaway. Better hold on there, Itsuka. It's gonna be a bit bumpy. She could hear the redhead screaming her head off as she gunned it straight for the highway, without realizing that she had passed a certain yellow bug on the way there. Meanwhile, inside of Bumblebee, Izuku and Kyoko were busy jamming out. As expected, they had found several CDs in that retro music store that had caught their interest. They had purchased few to listen to, namely because Kyoko wanted to expand Izuku's musical horizons, as she so put it. However, out of all the CDs they came across, there was one that caught both of their attentions. It was called 20 Rider Kicks, a collection of themes from the Heisei era. Of course, both of them knew what the Kamen Rider series was, even if it wasn't as popular anymore thanks to the advent of real-life heroes thanks to the emergence of quirks. That didn't stop the franchise from being one of Japan's biggest icons, though, and the fact that they had found a disc collecting all the themes from the Heisei-era riders was something they weren't about to pass up. It was music from a little over 100 years ago, after all, and judging that they had just repeated the last song they had listened to, they were obviously enjoying themselves. Even Bumblebee couldn't help but bang his head to the fast, high-intensity beat, which gave him the feeling of racing through the streets. Insert surprise drive. And before long, both of them started singing, with Kyoko starting out, "Amigari break cloud Tsukuma kara, Aozora ga te Mineki shiteru, alright, Sorosoro iko ka." Izuku picked up the next line from there, "Dorika ga iu logic shinji nai, chokin with shinji itai, high time, hajimari wo sagashite." Fire up, ignition. With a high five, he passed the baton to Kyoko again, "Heavy na pressure bukawashite, excel fumicome," and, in sync with one another, they both sang the chorus. "Surprise Sakai Chu ga drive. It's faster than ever. Feeling high mezumeru you na. Driving show me. Hajimaru unmei ni wa. Keep chasing forever. Back gear wa nai. All we need is, drive." It was times like these where Bumblebee wished he could sing along. He would have been all over that chorus. However, right at that moment, his mind was dragged out of the music when a small, blipping, noise could be heard in his systems. The blonde holoform's eyes widened and he brought the music to a stop, shifting his middle console to bring up his tracking radar. What the heck? Kyoko grimaced. We were just getting to the second verse. Yeah, what's going on? Izuku asked, his concern rising as he saw the serious countenance of his partner. Their eyes focused on the radar as well, where they saw an Autobot signal approaching their location. An unmasked Autobot signal. That made Kyoko tilt her head. Wait, didn't Optimus order all Autobots to mask their signals around Musutafu so that the cons wouldn't be able to track us to our base? It was then that two Decepticon signals became visible on the radar as well, and they were in pursuit of this mystery Autobot. Yeah, like that. Hold on, are they coming this way? SHH whom? The trio snapped their heads up at the sound of a zooming engine going straight across from their point in the intersection, where they saw a red and orange motorcycle with 2 people go through. Thankfully, the light was green on their end, but right behind them were 2 vehicles in hot pursuit, all 3 of them going straight for the freeway. This situation feels way too familiar. Izuku muttered. Great, the newbie isn't on Earth for a day yet and already they're being chased down by, hold on. Kyoka's eyes widened as she saw a familiar head of red hair on the back of that motorcycle, the girl's ponytail whipping through the air as they were being chased down. Is that Kendo from Class 1B? What? Izuku's eyes caught the redhead in question as she and the new Autobot drove onto the freeway. Oh god, this is way too familiar. We need to go save her, and then hopefully make it so that she doesn't see either you or the new bot in robot mode. We're gonna have to break a few speed limits, again. Kyoka muttered, only for B to give a smirk. B, what are you? ZRKT, start your engine. With that announcement, Bumblebee started, surprise drive, over again and, once the light turned green, they sped off after the 3, making Izuku and Kyoka cry out in, well, surprise. As that was going on, Itsuka was now going into panic mode. This is insane, she cried out as she glanced up to Tracy. Why are we running from them? Are they villains? Are you some kind of undercover hero or something? Tracy pursed her lips, reluctant to give away too much information. You're half right, she confirmed at the least. I am undercover, but I'm not really a hero, in the sense that you're familiar with. She gave a brief smile with a small head tilt. I do like to consider myself one, though. You're a vigilante. Again, not quite. Tracy nudged her head back. But those ones behind us are bad guys. Don't worry, love, I'm gonna get you out of this, somehow. Clash. MHA. Tracy whipped her head around to see a little yellow car speeding past the cons on their tail, going so far as to bump into one of them to veer them off course. That was all she needed to see to make her smile, knowing that no ordinary driver would risk getting into a road battle like this. Haha. Bingo. The cavalry's air. What? Itsuka's eyebrows rose in shock as a VW Beetle came right up next to them, one that seemed vaguely familiar. Wait, I've seen that car before. Sure enough, the rear windows rolled down and some of her fellow schoolmates could be seen in the back, a certain green-haired boy going so far as to lean partially out the window. Midoriya. Jiro. What in the world are you? Izuku reached his hand out to her as the front passenger door opened. No time to explain. Come on, get inside and we'll get you to safety. Do it, Itsuka. Tracy peered over her shoulder to the redhead. Trust me, the lad in that front seat is a friend of mine. Her words made Itsuka come to a conclusion, putting the pieces together after seeing the group that was sitting with 1A yesterday at the games. Then that means, you're part of Orion Pax's team, aren't you? Unfortunately, Tracy misunderstood the context of that, doing a double take in shock. Wait, so you already know Optimus? WHO. Kyoka and Izuku both facepalmed. Gah, so close, whoa. All of a sudden, Bumblebee swerved out of the way as the Viacon got in between him and the biker, boxing the latter in. The 2 teens were sent sprawling back onto the seats, with Kyoka shouting, oh, crap. Kendo. We're not about to let the same thing happen twice, Autobot. The Viacon barked as its hood-mounted blasters emerged and swung toward the bike. Now take this. The girls gasped as Tracy hit the gas, getting herself out of the way as the blasts hit the rail guard for the highway instead. Bloody pit. She called back toward Bumblebee, we need to get off this road and out of the way. Izuku poked his head back out and pointed to the upcoming bridge. There's a ravine coming up. Jump down there, we'll catch up. Tracy pursed her lips, furrowing her brow back toward the boy. I'm not sure who you are, lad, but thanks for the heads up. We'll see you down there. Giving her throttle a couple twists, Tracy revved her engine up and sped straight toward the bridge. Itsuka, hold on tight, do you hear? Don't let go. Wasn't about to do that anyway. Itsuka screamed as she felt her stomach get left behind. The swerving of the bike didn't exactly help, but it was necessary to avoid the lasers, which thankfully helped blow a hole into the guardrail that allowed them to get off the road. Itsuka dared not to look down as they briefly went off the ground for a moment, but then, something incredibly happened that made her open her eyes. "Don't worry, I gotcha. WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHK." Itsuka saw Trasis' body disappear in a flicker of light and, much to her shock, the bike began changing shape. The rear wheel split in half and shifted up as the underpart of the bike unfurled, revealing a waist and pair of legs which the wheel halves settled into the calves of. From there, the rear end of the bike split as well, shifting up toward the front to form a pair of arms. The exhaust pipes settled onto the forearms as the hands popped out. The bike's side panels then rotated up as the front end rotated down toward the bottom, with the front wheel folding through the seat, which was now the robot's lower back. The side panels then folded in on themselves, revealing a pair of thrusters that mounted themselves on the bot's shoulders, all while the front of the bike became the robot's chest. The gas can, which was now on the robot's upper back, flipped open briefly so that her head could rotate up into place. Finally, the motorcycle's windshield retracted to reveal her Autobot insignia, and from her midriff, her blue energy core emerged and took its place in the center of her torso. Her transformation now complete and with Itsuka safe in her hands, Flare-Up's core and thrusters ignited into bright blue and she blinked down to the bottom of the ravine in a split second, landing in a crouch. Phew. Flare-Up gently set Itsuka down on the ground, the girl's teal eyes staring up in utter shock and disbelief. "There we go, safe and so." Flare-Up and Itsuka's screams became unified, the Autobot stumbling back in fear. What's going? Who are you?" Itsuka raised her fists and, instinctively, made them grow much larger to protect herself. "Where'd Tracy go? What's going?" Whoa, slow down, love," the femme said, giving the redhead a reassuring smile. "It's me. I'm Tracy." That managed to get through to Itsuka in her moment of fear, blinking a couple times as the familiar voice resonated within her. Tracy." Her hands shrunk back to normal as they flew up to her head. "You're a robot. Wait, you're the bike. The bike's a robot." Before Flare-Up could start explaining, though, the class rep started pacing back and forth, trying to reason with herself. No, this has to be a dream, it's gotta be. There's no way giant, transforming robots could ever be real, right? Ha. Yeah, that's gotta be, oof. With a sympathetic grin, Flare-Up stopped Itsuka with her finger, placing it directly on top of her head. "Sorry, dear, but I'm afraid this is very much real." She bowed apologetically to her. "And, sorry for not being 100% honest with ya earlier. I'm supposed to keep cover on this planet, but I guess I just ruined any semblance of that by awesomement you knew already." Itsuka took a deep breath, slowly coming to terms with what was happening. "So, I'm guessing that, Tracy, isn't your real name." "Hey, nope. Made that up for my holoform." The speedy Autobot gave Itsuka a thumbs up. "Name's Flare-Up. And, I'm from a planet called Cybertron. A giant alien robot." Itsuka brought a hand to her head. Just how could this day get any weirder? Vroom. The sound of engines brought the duo's attention upward as the black and purple cars from before came zooming down the ravine before transforming themselves, the Viacons stomping down with their blasters at the ready and pointed directly at them. "I'm sorry I asked." "Grr, Decepticons." Flare-Up spat as she stood up, facing the threat without fear. "Itsuka, you'll wanna get back as far as you can." She flicked her wrists and a pair of energy pistols came out from under her arms, catching them in her hands with a twirl as her orange visor came down over her optics. "Don't worry, I'll protect you." And with those words, Itsuka could only watch as Flare-Up dashed into battle, her thrusters creating a blue energy trail as she ran. This ends here, cons. And it's the end of Season 2 Part 18 of this What If. I hope you guys like it. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel.